Recording time. Fireworks sound effects here. Boom, bow, boom. All right. Right, because we're using the in-game chat now, not Discordito.
God, they're done. Apparently, I was wrong.
From time to time.
When you join the cult,
sometimes you got to do that.
Exactly.
That's great that Thomas joined because he can be our voice of reason.
Listen, it's not like they ask us to eat a baby or something.
Right.
Not.
And then I hear Alex. Alex is like, "Oh, I'm all there for good. I want to learn how to help people." Like, who are you kidding, dude? You are, you know.
Well, he's playing the character to the nth, man. I mean, Edgar Casey is a man dedicated to uncovering the good and the bad. But we're going to end up burning this house down at some point.
Okay.
Someday in the future, after we
just
learn
not before we get into their library or figure out what that is.
Just don't be surprised if Edgar Casey joins the cult, goes completely insane, and is there to stop you.
Yes, that's just it. I'm not going to be surprised. That's the problem.
I think the only way to stop Edgar Casey is to we got to take him out in the most controversial way, by shovel.
Set him on fire with some flask oil and a match, and then beat him to death with a shovel.
That's you rolling a 1 trying to use it.
Speaking of which, what was that stuff you were trying to decipher? I didn't understand that. Some chemical compound you were trying to figure out what it was?
The Ibn Ghazi?
I don't know. Maybe something. Yeah, it was something you guys were trying to decipher.
The powder of Ibn Ghazi. So we learned how to do the Elder Sign. The thing is it requires this oil, and the oil. I think we have all the ingredients, or at least know how to make all the ingredients, save for, they just throw in there the powder of Ibn Ghazi.
Got it.
Yeah, we're trying to locate that, which maybe. Go ahead.
All we know is that it's a silvery talc that renders invisible creatures visible.
That's going to be something we have to find in another tome, I'm afraid.
That might be in the private library of all working with.
Exactly.
Well, exactly, and that's the only reason that we haven't burned the place down yet, and quite frankly, the reason we kind of did the initiation, because we would like to see what's in here.
Yeah,
right?
No, I hear that. I just would have liked to have snuck in and not got my head touched with a ivory, staff.
You gotta break a few eggs. Staffs in real life.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not like you can get forbidden knowledge down at the local library. So.
All right. So first of all, Tom, it's great to have you with us.
Yay!
I have created a character for Tom to play, just for convenience here.
Perfect.
His name is Dr. Nikolas Van Helsing. He is a physician and medical examiner. I don't know, we can say that you have maybe some law enforcement connections. You're a coroner, essentially, with some forensic experience and such. And he's got some badass medical skills.
Nice.
Excellent.
That's good. Seeing a lot of dead bodies and horrible things will come in handy. That's good.
I know, and it looks like he's the Civil War reenactor, or at least doctor, so I think he's seen a lot of amputations. We should be good.
He looked like a past president or something. I thought that myself, so...
He might be. I don't know. But, his appearance is only 8, so I couldn't make him too handsome.
He's beard handsome.
Exactly.
Have
That
you
qualifies
had a
me.
chance to actually look at the character sheet, Tom?
I have briefly. I mean, I haven't studied them, but
Yeah, so it's
sanity worries me.
it's very similar to our old style character sheets, same kind of format, same stats,
Okay.
same game we played back in the day. Essentially,
Okay.
you may notice a couple or a few things I may do differently, but it's basically the same game.
Okay.
If you look at the one thing is, you remember, like when you make a skill check and you pass a skill test in the game, you're supposed to make a check mark next to your skill.
Yes.
Under your investigator skills there right now, the ones that are checked are your occupational skills that I put points into.
Got it.
And I'll just kind of go through these just so everybody kind of has an idea. Actually, I put in your bio and info tab at the top on all the characters, I'll put your specialties. Let me put your name in there.
Okay. Biology, credit rating, first aid, medicine, Latin, library use, psychology.
Yeah, those are all skills that you have basically over 50% in.
Okay.
Roughly.
Cool.
The other skills that I put some points into for you are things like
Shotgun is at 50.
chemistry. Well, that was a requirement of Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, he said he
That
had no
was-
shotgun skills. So.
That was my
Yeah,
one
so-
request.
Your request was pretty straightforward.
Very
But
practical.
he has a credit rating of 70, which is pretty badass.
Woo.
Ooh.
He has some chemistry. He's got some first aid skill. He's got a little bit of pharmacy. He's got a pretty good psychology. He's got a okay spot hidden. I put some points into that. And he's got a 50% with a shotgun. And if you kind of scroll down a little bit on the sheet, and all you guys can look at each other's sheets, by the way. Just don't fuck with other people's sheets. Don't mess with another man's character sheet. But you can look at them.
Oh, you mean I could accidentally change somebody's numbers on their sheet?
You could, but
Okay.
Like
Just
you could
try
even
not to do
roll
that.
from.
but yeah, everybody can
Different
look at
sheets.
everybody else's sheets.
Okay.
Let me change the screen here and put the Black Sabbath to a halt here for a moment.
I was about to say that's some very calming music for the suicidal moment that's about to take place in that picture.
So you have
Uh-oh. That was a misclick.
something like you may have a missing daughter, and we can
Okay.
talk about that in a minute.
All right.
Your income's $4,500 a year, which is pretty good. And you have, and I just put some basic kind of stuff that you may carry around with you, like a medical case. You've got an automobile. It's a Packard 626, gold pocket watch. You have a 12 gauge double barrel sawed off shotgun
Perfect.
for home defense.
Of course.
Or whatever. You also possess a 38 revolver for home defense.
Okay. All right.
Other than that, you can fill in any details, background details, or anything that you want.
Cool.
Very close range duck hunting.
And just so everybody else kind of has a basic idea on his strengths and weaknesses, he's got 65 sanity points.
That's
13
bad, isn't it?
No, that's pretty good.
That's much better than mine at 55. And I think
65 's
yours
pretty good, man.
has-
Okay. All right.
A little above average, actually.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Yeah, you're the same as Yusufus.
He's got 13 magic points, 13 hit points. He's got a strength of 7, so he's getting up in his years a little bit. He's 58 years old, I believe.
Yep. Yep.
Constitution 11, size 15. So he's kind of a hefty guy.
It is.
Dex 10, appearance 8, intelligence 14, power 13, and education 17. So you've got a pretty good idea roll at 70%, a decent luck roll at 65%, and a very good no roll at 85%.
Cool.
Other than that, as I said, you're a Harvard graduate from Harvard Medical School. You've been practicing medicine for at least 30 years. And you are well known in the Boston community. And it actually kind of makes it easy because Lee's character, his father was a prominent surgeon in Boston, who would probably roughly about your age. So I figured what we could do, aside from this whole missing daughter thing, is perhaps Dr. Van Helsing became involved in this Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, this fraternal lodge, where men meet to speak of philosophy and religion and other things, science. And you have become a member of this lodge, and you have been for some time, and you have also worked your way up to the rank of master, which is the third public rank of the order. And what we can do is we can assume that at some point, because I think I alluded to the fact that there are at least 160 members of this particular lodge. It's a lot of men are members of this. A good number of those are public members, and it's also known that now these guys know, the other three know, that there are secret ranks that you can go through. But we'll say that you've all acquired the rank of master, and it would be pretty easy. Like maybe one evening, maybe Dr. Van Helsing works on Tuesday nights or whatever night these guys go down there to drink and talk and stuff like this. And maybe you have a Tuesday off, so they have never met you before. So I think that it might be appropriate to have Jacob and Van Helsing kind of recognize each other, one night at the lodge.
Sure, friend of my family's, friend of my father's.
Yeah, a very good friend, let's say.
Right.
So I know Jacob from his youth, like a child. I knew when he was growing up, and
yes, absolutely.
Okay. Cool. All right, very good. Jacob, you look well.
Yeah, great seeing you, Doctor. What have you been up to? Still helping law enforcement?
Of course. More than I would like to, though.
Excellent. So, how long have you been a member here?
Not long, just about 2-3 months. Something just come up. I'm surprised to see you here.
Yeah, I think my friends. I have some acquaintances, some associates. We just had quite a trip in South and Central America. You should come over to the manor. We should have lunch. I'll introduce you to my friends.
I think it'd be great. Let's do it.
So So I'll immediately invite him over, man, to the manor.
Yeah, and Jacob, you also know that your other friend, Dr. Edward Call, is also friends with Van Helsing. And Van Helsing, you know of this Dr. Edward Call. He is also a good friend of yours, a practicing physician here in Boston, as well as Jacob's father. I don't know, what was your father's name, Jacob? George? George Crowninshield?
Sure.
Uncle
George.
Yes, Uncle George, of course.
Yep.
And so, and actually, Dr. Edward Call has joined the order as well. He's still a second rank initiate at this point, but you do see him over the past couple of months. You have seen him at the lodge occasionally. He hangs out there, and for the free drinks mostly.
Okay.
A bit of a lush.
Yeah, but he's a trusted friend too, right, yeah. Sean? As far as family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but not quite so much as Van Helsing, though. I mean, Nicholas and your father George were like brothers. They went to medical school together. They were roommates.
Okay.
He was always around. You'd go on hunting trips out to Wyoming with your father and Nicholas and things like that. So you've known him all of your life. So yeah, very, very trusted friend.
Okay, man. Cool. That's perfect. We need another trusted, skilled individual.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see you here, Jacob, at the lodge. Well, introduce me to your friends, and let's talk further.
Yeah. So we'll, Sean. How much time do we have before we have this next initiation?
Well, it's kind of up.
Or is there a couple weeks
in the air? A week has already passed since each of you has been approached. by John Scott, and him sort of very subtly kind of telling you about these secret ranks and just kind of gauging your interest in it. But there hasn't been any kind of formal invitation or anything like that. He just says, just think it over, take all the time you want.
Okay, good.
So there's no pressure.
Have I had similar conversations with this guy with
No.
regard to the secret ranks, or I've not heard of it?
Not as of yet, no.
Okay,
You're not aware of the secret ranks yet.
Okay.
So we'll make some idle chit chat, about the weather and whatnot. But I'll invite him back to Crowninshield Manor the next day for lunch. And
Okay.
get everybody together and let them know, who's coming over.
Sure.
One of my father's best friend, good trusted family.
Sure.
Who happens to be at the sludge?
Yeah, it's a fine Saturday afternoon at the Crowninshield Manor. And by the way, Kyle, how you feeling today? You hanging in there? Voice, can't hear you.
Yeah, can't hear you.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling way better, man. I had a total resurrection by midday today, so I'm good.
All right. Good deal. All right. So yeah, Dr. Van Helsing shows up, around noon, and you've had Henrietta, your servant, prepare a nice lunch of finger sandwiches, and a nice Cobb salad, some brandy. All that's laid out in the lounge area, the study. And Van Helsing shows up, and all of you are present, as well as Mr.
Knuckles.
Yeah, where is Knuckles? He's not on here. Yeah, Ben Knuckles. Ben Knuckles is here too.
Nice.
So all these guys I see on the screen are here?
Pretty much here. I'll show you who's who. So let me move around a little bit. So all the guys in the top row here. Dr. Call over here. Yeah, all the guys in the top row are pretty much the investigative division of the characters here. Everybody in the bottom row are non-player characters. And Tom, actually, before we get started here, let me go over a couple things with you just for settings wise.
Okay.
To make your integration a little easier. At the top right of your screen, there is a menu, and it's broken up into different tabs. You've got chat, art library. Well, I have the art library, journal. The journal tab is where kind of all the important stuff is. You are on a PC, aren't you?
I am, and I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. The journal tab is kind of where all the important stuff is. All your characters, information for spells, handouts,
newspaper clippings.
Yeah, even rule books and stuff. There's links to rule books in my Dropbox that you can access. You can download them, whatever.
Okay.
There's also the music tab, which shows what music's playing. I've got all my music in there. There is the collections tab, which shows macros that I've created for dice rolls and things like that. And then there's the
that's how you roll the dice. Would you just click it, or?
Well, I'll show you. That's kind of what I wanted to show you here first. First of all, go into your My Settings tab, and there's a checkbox, some checkboxes that I want you to turn on. Turn on enable 3D dice.
Wait. My settings, where's that?
It's the gear icon at the top.
The gear, got it. All right, I'm there.
Yeah, I want you to put a check on enable 3D dice.
Got it.
Check automatically roll 3D dice.
Done.
And under video and voice, I want to broadcast to others. You should do at least voice. If you want, you probably have all these set up already because I saw your video earlier.
Yes, this video or voice. Yep.
Yeah, and make sure you put I want to receive from others video and voice.
Got it.
Also, at the very top of that menu there's a master music volume slider bar.
Yes.
If the music's too soft or too loud, you can adjust it there.
Okay.
Do you hear music, by the way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not at the moment, but I did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing's playing currently.
Yeah.
Here, let me test it out here real quick.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's see. So you can adjust that volume of the music I play and sound effects with that slider bar. So just have that at a comfortable level.
Okay.
Now let's go over to the collections tab, the one right next to it. It's kind of like the bullet point icon there. And you want to check in bar for all of those macros.
Check all of them.
Check all of them. And then at the very underneath that, it says show macro quick bar. Check that.
Okay.
And now at the bottom left of your screen, you should see these little buttons.
Yep.
And you can drag those. There's a little, if you hover over them, you can grab onto the little gray part of it, and you can shift them around and put them in any order you want.
Got it. And I just rolled a 62. Okay.
Yeah. And generally we use these to roll dice. Oh, and by the way, you guys, you should go into the collections tab too and enable the D3 macro if you haven't already, because I just added that recently in case we wanted to use that. So yeah, we can use these macros for a lot of the skill rolls and dice rolls, damage rolls, and all that kind of stuff. You can actually roll them right from your sheet as well, right from your character sheet.
Cool. Okay.
There's like little D20 icons next to all your skills and stuff. You can roll them right from your sheet if you want to do that. There's also a way to type them out. You can type, I think, /R space and then what you want to roll. So you can use /R D100 or /R 2D8 or whatever you prefer.
What's this Dex playing cards?
Those are for if we're playing games that require cards.
Got it.
Like that.
Got it.
You know, it actually has a set of playing cards in there. We could play poker sometime if you wanted to.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And just a couple of tips. If you hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and use your mouse wheel on the desktop, on the tabletop here, it'll zoom in and out.
Okay.
Okay. If you right click and drag, it will drag the screen around.
Okay.
Okay. So it's just kind of a way to kind of get around quick on the screen. It's like I use those all the time, constantly, zooming in and out and dragging around the screen, especially if we're using maps or various handouts or whatever. It's pretty handy.
Sounds good. All right.
Just one handy shortcut. Okay, you see your token on the screen. Where is your token?
I don't see his token.
Yeah, it disappeared.
Oh, it's not on the screen. What I can actually do is, if I
Hey, Sean, are you playing music right now?
no,
Okay.
not playing anything right now. So this is kind of cool. I can just click and drag your character sheet out onto the tabletop, and it should pop your token in there.
Oh, there he is. He's really tiny.
He's really tiny. Let's get him up to size here.
The only other thing that I can think of is you have all of your skills that you had points into checked. You should uncheck those so that in future you can check them whenever to increase them later. You know how that works.
Oh, so uncheck them on my character sheet because I've already got it.
Yeah, any boxes that are checked, just uncheck them.
Got
I just wanted for you to be able to see what points, what skills I put points into.
Got it.
And of course, in the chat box in the top right there in the chat menu, that's where you can look and see what your dice rolls are. You can also type shit in there, for messages, stuff like that. And sometimes we'll put links in there to web pages or whatever. That's a little Roll20 mini tutorial for you.
Sounds good. And what is Discord? That's just you don't need that for this.
No, we were using Discord for voice chat because it was a little more stable. In the past, we've had problems with using the voice chat that we're using now in Roll20, but I think they've improved it. And because we play in a weeknight, there's not so much traffic. I don't think we should have any problem with it. We used it last session because Lee was having some problems with Discord. He was cutting in and out and stuff like that. We switched over to the Roll20 chat and things worked perfectly last session. So we're just going to keep using this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's worked really well
for now. Yeah.
All right. Last thing, I've unchecked all those checks. Do I have to hit save or anything? Or
no? No, everything's real time. When you type something in, it saves it automatically.
All right. Cool.
Okay. So So Nicholas, you walk up to Jacob's front door. He's got this massive, oak door bound in like this in iron with this beautiful stained glass. He has this huge freaking Gothic manor, that was his father's house. And you haven't been here in some time. George died a couple of years ago. And you haven't actually seen Jacob too much in the last couple of years. You've run into him a couple times through mutual friends, but you haven't seen him in a while. So you're kind of excited to get back to the Crowninshield Manor. Many good times were had here back in the day.
Excellent. Reminiscing about the good old days. Start telling stories of old.
Yeah. So Jacob, Dr. Van Helsing shows up and everybody's there.
Nicholas. Yeah, come in.
I give him a big bear hug.
Yeah, man, we greet each other warmly, and I'll invite him into the lounge and introduce him to everybody. Yusufus, Ben, Edgar.
Gentlemen, nice to meet you all.
I look up from Von June's nameless cults, from which I'm probably scribbling down the names of various cults and their activities. Ah, greetings. I see we have a new friend. I go back to scribbling down names and...
Why not? I haven't seen Jacob for a while, so I'm eager to get to know you guys a little bit better.
Well, I think where we should start is our trip to South and Central America, and I think, I think you should probably sit down and we should all pour ourselves a nice stout drink.
I was just gonna say, I can see Jacob saying, Nicholas, perhaps you should sit down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's some brandy.
Yeah. What are you What are you drinking? Brandy or scotch? What do you have?
Scotch.
So I pour him. Yeah. So I pour him an inordinate size scotch. I'm like, yeah, there you go. Drink like half of that right off the bat.
I start becoming nervous, and oh boy, Jacob's not the youth that I remember.
Yeah, well, he knows I was in the war and all that stuff too. So, but
I guess you're right. Okay, yeah. Okay, yes. That's.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah. What year are we in? What's the time frame?
It is June of 1924.
Okay, got it. Okay.
President Harding passed away earlier this year, and now Calvin Coolidge, his vice president, has taken his place. And this is an election year. There's an election coming up in November.
Okay.
Big doings in Boston right now, politically speaking.
So we'll relate the general outline of the exploration, including the right up to the point where we actually enter the Dreamlands, right?
Sure.
Yeah. What's he thinking?
Does that include the gaseous acid that came from the well and the dark child?
Yeah. How familiar are you with that, Tom? The story so far with these guys?
Very little. I heard a little bit about the dark child the other night, and something about it. Like I don't like somebody else has asked about it, right? Lee, you didn't know about the dark child, or somebody said dark child.
Came in. Yeah, that came in before my time. I joined them I joined them in South America because basically I was working as security for another portion of this exploration, basically, and then got separated and then meeted up with these guys. Very fortunate. Saved my life.
And as far as characters themselves go, I think only Yusufus is the only one still afflicted by the curse or the gaze or whatever you want to call it of the dark child. So I don't even really think Edgar would know too much about it, though my previous character Percy was present for.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Alex is talking over you. You guys are talking at the same time. Can you not hear?
I cannot hear.
Can you hear Alex? Can you hear me?
I
Yes.
can hear you.
Alex.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear Kyle?
Oh, I cannot hear Kyle.
Say something, Kyle. All right. Both you guys just refresh your page.
We desynced.
I'm refreshed.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
I can hear you just fine, and I can
Lovely.
also hear Tom,
I don't-
and I can hear my father. But
it's
Kyle has not.
Just you and Kyle were both talking at the same time, and it was like,
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
And I don't see Kyle yet.
Yes, it was painful.
yeah, it usually only takes like a few seconds to reload the page. If we do have any audio problems, usually, or any glitches that happen, usually if you just refresh the page, it usually goes away, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I'll let Kyle tell the tale then. The Dark Child, whenever he returns.
Yeah, all I heard was I just heard the term dark child, and I saw the picture that Sean flashed up with the chick with the dark eyes.
Right.
Yeah. Kyle, where are you?
I know, really.
Come
Damn,
back.
man. Damn, dude.
Earlier, when we first started, he said he was having some internet issues.
That reminds me, Dad. The golden amulets. Where
Yes.
exactly are those?
They're in the safe.
Yeah, they're on your character sheets, actually. Yeah, they're in the safe. I believe I marked each of you having 2 of them.
Okay. All of them
Eusephus,
are in the
Edgar,
safe?
and Jacob each have 2
Okay.
of the golden amulets. So yeah, just for Tom's benefit, Alex, can you give like the brief few minute cliff notes of what went on in Honduras?
In the Honduras?
Yeah, we can, Eusephus can maybe tell the Dark Child story later
Sure.
because he
Right.
was there.
Essentially, after the advent of the Dark Child, we'd made a friend with a professor, what was his name? Farnsworth, Professor Farnsworth. He told us about a friend of his who had gone out to the Honduras to explore on an expedition, and he wanted us to go find him. So we managed to find a man named Dr. Jeremy Morgan, who was an archaeologist that was heading out that way to also look for this missing professor, Dr. Williamson. And what ended up happening was we went on this expedition out into the Honduras jungle. We were seeking. We found out that Williamson was seeking this place called Bendel Daloom. I think he was seeking Bendel Daloom.
Yes, he was.
Okay. And his entire expedition had vanished. So we got to the Honduras, we went out into the jungles, and we started to find these strange, recently built pyramids, like step pyramids that were neither Mayan nor Aztec in origin. And so we eventually found out that these pyramids, I think it was the pyramids that marked the way to Bendel Daloom, or it was some other stone markers that were also of strange, unknown origin.
Yeah, the markers themselves were like little miniature kind of pyramids
Right.
that Dr. Morgan figured out would probably lead the way to Bendel Daloom, which it eventually did.
Right. So we found these markers that led a pretty clear path towards Bendel Daloom, and eventually we managed to get there, but our guide, Gordon Lockley, when did he first start showing signs of treachery? he wanted to steal from the party, and we found out that he was part of the the Williamson expedition, the very first expedition that had vanished and we were looking for. Apparently, Gordon Lockley was looking for was on that expedition with Williamson, and he never told us. And we eventually had a confrontation with him, and he fled into the jungle as we reached Bindal Daloom, or something like that. The timeline's a little wonky. And Bindal Daloom was this large, strange... I mean, it was pretty alien, really. City. It was not, again, of Mayan or Aztec origin, so it was something else entirely, and we never really figured it out. But it was built on top of this lake, and eventually we managed to find our way into the Great Pyramid at the center of it by using these golden medallions that we'd found, or were given to us earlier. Who gave us those? Who gave us the first amulet, Dad?
It was found by somebody on the trail of the Williamson expedition. In one of the campsites that the Williamson expedition camped in. You guys found one of those golden medallions.
Yeah, and that's on a handout, the medallion itself. Anyways, we found this medallion, and we found out that the only way to enter this strange pyramid was by showing the medallion to this strange carved face in the on the side of it. So we entered the face-like door, and and it turns out that Morgan, Morgan, like, the guy who was leading the expedition, the archaeologist, he died? Was he shot by Gordon first? Yeah, what happened with Morgan again? He turned into this weird plant creature,
Well, Morgan, at an opportune time, grabbed Percy Fawcett and put a gun to his head and demanded that you all drop your weapons.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, Sean, while Edgar's relating this story, we do have exhibits, you might say.
Yes.
He showed them to me. I see them.
All kinds of different proof, the amulets themselves and sketches and all the stuff that Edgar has, so that's just to add veracity to the story.
Well,
absolutely.
Remember, Edgar wasn't a part of this story at this time.
Right.
Edgar came way later, so I don't know if he's actually the one relating this story.
Yes, but Percy kept, records up until that point.
Yeah, who's got Percy's stuff?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Percy's journal was lost.
Right.
But among all of his other papers, including a lot of Professor Farnsworth's papers,
right.
Some of this can be recalled. There are some sketches and some writings of Fawcett that remain. But yeah, you do have quite a bit of evidence. At least what's under the Pits of Bindal Daloom menu in the journal there.
Okay.
Is for those handouts and stuff.
This actually might be easier if I could look at at what I wrote in that journal. Did you get rid of Percy Fawcett's character sheet?
This is it right here. I just popped it up on your screen.
The whole journal? No.
Well,
the one on his character sheet had the complete, the whole adventure basically written into it.
Well, we don't need all the details. If you can just kind of give them the cliff notes of it, it's fine.
Okay. So
I'll put it out there though if you want to see it.
Okay. I'm just trying to remember the timeline of it all. So the archaeologist grabbed Percy Fawcett, threatened to kill him, and then managed to get and then Lockley came in, the guy who had betrayed us and ran off into the jungle.
There's a big firefight ensued, basically a gun battle.
And after
it was ugly, man. It was ugly. People got shot point blank. Percy got killed immediately. I was shot in the gut. It was Oh, dude.
Yeah, so eventually what
It was
happened was
bad.
we shot down Morgan, the archaeologist, who then exploded into this strange plant-like creature, um, which, as I recall, you described as a bunch of, like, strange tendril things, like a bunch of tentacles just kind of exploded out of the dude, and we fled, into the pyramid.
Oh.
Eventually we
Yeah.
found this. Eventually we found a deep, dark pit that we started to climb down into, and we all fell.
While being chased by the plant thing.
Yes, while being chased and pursued by the strange plant creature,
It had eyeballs all over it.
we all fell
It's pretty crazy.
into the pit, and then we awoke in darkness, and that's when we entered the dream world.
Yeah, and the crappy thing about the pit was we climbed and climbed and climbed until we couldn't climb anymore.
Yeah, we
Oh.
beat ourselves to exhaustion.
So it was like it was bottomless. Like you just
Yeah.
kept. You just
Yeah,
couldn't get to
man.
the top.
Yeah, we tried. It was another nightmare, you know?
It was very
Mm.
nightmarish, yes.
Do you wanna tell the story of the dream worlds?
Oh God, dude, it's I don't know if I can. It's
Is that what I'm seeing here? October 3rd, dreams, terrible, mysterious dreams. Everyone had them screaming in the night.
Yeah, that's kind of the end of Percy's journal entries, which has been lost. But I would assume that maybe Eusephus has taken up the pen and written a lot of this stuff down. But yeah, October 5th, 1923. That was the day that they were betrayed by Dr. Morgan, and Percy's journal ends. He says, an internal structure in a structure, a four-stepped pyramid with an entrance revealed via the medallion. Gargoyles watch over us with grotesque shadows for faces. At the top, a stone. We will explore, and hopefully what we find will redeem the Williamson expedition. I pray, ... end of log. So I think it was that day on October 5th when they decided to try to gain entry into the main pyramid complex is when they were betrayed by Morgan and Lockley. And they wound up being chased into the pyramid by this plant creature that had all these eyes all over it. It came out of Morgan's body when he died. And they climbed down into this stone well in these ladder rungs until they couldn't climb anymore. And they just began basically falling one by one down into the bottomless pit. And they all woke up naked in the dark on a cold stone floor of these underground caverns, and they wandered for days down there.
In darkness for a long time, actually.
Yeah, near to the point of starvation and dehydration.
So how'd you get out?
Yeah, well, we finally came upon this shore, I guess, in these docks. It was crazy. It was crazy, man.
They eventually came across Edgar Casey down there, who was also lost
that's
and
right.
wandering. And they found this wall down there that had this arch. It was like a portal with this sort of green barrier in the arch that they couldn't penetrate. But I think Eusephus figured out to use the medallion. The only thing that they had with them, they were naked. All their stuff was gone except for the gold medallion. That Eusephus had the gold medallion in one hand and Percy Fawcett's journal in the other. And I believe Jacob retained his father's ring. So anything anything of like kind of sentimental value was still with them. Otherwise, but anyway, Eusephus figured out to use the medallion to kind of scrape at the barrier, which worked. After scraping at the barrier, scraping a hole into the barrier with the medallion, it eventually popped and opened up, which led into the caves of life, which is just kind of a very weird.
And who named them the Caves of Life?
Well, this is really ultimately what Williamson was looking for. He was looking for Ben Alderloom because he felt that they held the Caves of Life, which he believed, which Williamson believed contained some of these artifacts that he was looking for, things like the Mirror of Gaul and Thoth's dagger, and things like this. So it was just kind of a really weird and dreamlike episode of them going into these caves and seeing these weird and wild things, discovering these weird crystals and things like that. But the caves eventually led out onto this massive underground sea, basically. It was this blue phosphorescent sea inside of this cavern. And after searching around a little bit, this black galleon pulled up to these black obsidian docks on the shore. And these men came off of this galleon, these strange turbaned men. They had these huge turbans on their head, and they're dressed kind of like Persians, like Sinbad type characters. And they made a camp on the shore. And I'll let you guys continue from there. You're telling the story.
Right. So
I'm gonna get some coffee.
Yeah, man, we were kind of torn because we were hungry. We're starving. These guys, they get off the ship, they make this little camp, they start fixing food. So half of us
seen in days.
Yeah, so half of us stayed back, and half of us went over. And the ones that went over basically were fed and, they're eating and stuff like that. And I don't know if they were nice at first, but I don't know did the effects start first when they started passing out. Anyways, basically.
Well, they passed out the alcohol, the water, and the food, and we were eating for a while, and then I think we called you over, and it was at that time that we got drowsy and
They had this gigantic decanter that seemed to be carved out of a single gigantic ruby. And there was this very sweet, spicy liquid that they were offering those that had approached the camp. I believe Jacob and Stuart Devlin had stayed out of camp just to observe, where the others were in camp eating and drinking with these pirates or whatever they were. And whatever the liquid was that they drank from that ruby decanter knocked them out.
Mm-hmm.
They were drugged.
Yeah, and so then there was a fight there on the shore, which we ultimately lost, and we were taken prisoner on their ship.
But we did kill some of them.
Yeah, we did. So we were taken onto the ship as prisoners and locked away from each other. Every once in a while, I believe we were taken up on deck to eat, drink, and they told us that the rowers below were sort of monsters or something. And
why did they take you prisoner? What was their rationale?
We were trying to figure it out. We were trying to ask them why we were being taken and where, and they just didn't tell us at all. They just said, "You will see," and just kind of left it at that. Then eventually, at one point, I guess we just kind of got sick of that whole ordeal, and we broke out a fight on the deck of the ship. And we did pretty well for ourselves.
Yeah, brutal battle, man. They were all unarmed fighting these dudes, and these guys had these long, nasty dirks. So it was like a pretty
it was pretty great, man.
Harrowing battle on the beach there. These guys were all naked too, by the way. They had nothing. That was pretty cool.
And we managed to overwhelm them, I think.
Yeah.
And then
you killed two of them on the beach.
Yeah, then we made no, we didn't make any stupid mistakes. We just kind of went down into the bows of the ship to
Well, you guys, they killed two of these guys on the beach and then were captured, basically. Yeah. They were overwhelmed by these guys and taken aboard the ship and put in these sort of holes and chained to the floor, and they were down there for days.
There was another guy who we never really followed up on who was just outright murdered by these guys, who was also being held prisoner.
He was a dreamer, he was another,
Yeah, he said that he was here as a dreamer. What
does that mean?
He was here in his dreams. He was actually sleeping in London.
Yeah. Well, apparently we were an aberration. I mean, being in this dimension, if you want to call it that, in physical form, apparently was not the way most people are in this space.
Oh.
Yeah.
He explained to these guys that in so many words, he told these guys, you guys are in the dream, something called the dreamlands. And I'm, my physical body is dreaming back at my home in London. But obviously you have come here, your physical selves have somehow entered the dreamlands, which is very rare. And he said, it must be for some reason. And he mentioned some
Wizard.
Some monstrous figure that he called Oundor, who it must be some part of his plans. He's trying to find a way to break through to the waking world and all of this stuff. And that's when the turbaned guys came in and hauled him out, and
presumably murdered him.
They threw him to the rowers. Is what
we never saw him again.
No.
Unhuman
Trelane. Although you can assume that he is alive and well in the waking world, possibly.
Yeah, we need to follow up on that at some point. But so we were on this ship and we had like two of them, one of them prisoner. Like there weren't that many of them left on the ship, and they were pretty much our prisoners at that point. But we couldn't find any way at all to change the direction of the ship or anything. They wouldn't give us any information. They only said that we were all going to die or something like that. The wheel of the ship, the helm of the ship just wouldn't be controlled. It was controlling itself. The rowers below, we didn't want to mess with that because apparently they ate people. The creatures that were keeping us prisoner were very, very frightened of the so-called rowers. And
the sailors kept telling them about the rowers. He said, no, you do not want to go down there. They would not be pleasant to your eyes.
Yes, that's it. They would not be pleasant to our eyes. So we didn't want to mess with that. We didn't want to try and go down there and stir up any trouble with the rowers. But that also means that we had no choice in where we were going. So the ship eventually managed to get to, where was it that the ship went before it took off into space?
Well, that was the crazy thing too. Is before we got to the main destination, if you want to call it that, we were in this space void, I guess you'd call it, attacked by these crazy creatures. Nuts.
Right.
Remember?
We got to this point in the ocean where there were all these pillars that went way up into the sky, and we were just kind of swept into, I think it was a wormhole or
the galleon. The galleon was basically sucked out into space off of the edge of the world.
Right.
In space.
Yeah, so we went into space and there were these terrible creatures, or at least only one that we saw. It was like a gigantic worm that came barreling out at us from space. Apparently there was some sort of force that stopped it as it crashed into the ship and then kind of went away. It was after this huge flash of light.
It's at this point the doctor asks for another drink.
Right.
Yeah, these guys seem really pretty serious. Edgar's even sweating a little, as he's telling the story.
And that is when we got to the city of the creatures. Or I guess Edgar would say the city of Huondor.
Yeah, and out when they were out in space, and what's pretty cool, Tom, and it worked out really well. I had reread the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath before I ran this adventure. Fantastic story, and probably one of Lovecraft's best stories. And I was using actual narrative written by Lovecraft during this whole time. There's out in space, I would say, I've got it right here. What shapeless black things lurk and caper and flounder all through the ether, leering and grinning at such voyagers as may pass, sometimes feeling about with slimy paws when some moving objects excites their curiosity.
Nice.
Yeah, and so we, after going through space for some amount of time, we managed to get to this strange alien city. terrible, huge beasts were hauling unknown cargo led by more of these turbaned people who we learned the turbans were actually covering gigantic horns on their heads, and they had
Excellent.
hooves. So they're like devil people, and they were apparently slaves as well as these other gigantic faceless beasts that were hauling this cargo. We were taken by them to other cells, and again, we're prisoner in this alien city until it was time for whatever it was.
It was the gray, slimy, eyeless toad things
Right.
that apparently were the masters of the city. The moon
Right.
beasts.
So we were taken by those as prisoner till until eventually they forced us into this huge, like, crater, this gulch, where an exact copy of Bindal Daloom sort of hung in the, or like was over in the distance, and this wizard, this dude with these robes, told us that he was a philosopher from from a long dead race who sought to get his body back into the real world and to escape this world of dreams. He was going to what was it? He was going to loose his sendings upon the earth once again, or
Yes.
some craziness like that.
Yeah,
And-
all he needed were mortals from the waking world to re-enter his temple there at Endaloom. And, so basically you guys were kind of pawns in his whole scheme.
Nice.
And so
So they use you for that? Okay.
Yeah,
he was
so-
overused.
at the same time, we saw there were these creatures in Bindal Daloom. Like, there were statues of these huge tree-like beings with tentacles just kind of, like, sticking out of their torsos. These humongous creatures. And we actually saw one that this wizard seemed to have befriended or was controlling or something.
Tree tentacles with hooved feet, Tom. I'm sure
Yes,
you know what.
tree tentacles
Oh.
with hooved
Yes,
feet.
I know what that is.
And it chased.
I shouldn't, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and so it chased us kind of up the temple, while Huondor was telling us to use these
Medallions.
the medallions. He gave us more medallions. They just kind of manifested themselves at our feet. He told us to use them to enter Bindal Daloom and to go back to the waking world. And that's exactly what we did, because we didn't really have a choice. And I think at this point, almost everybody in the party had taken enough sanity hits to
Yeah,
a little bit insane.
Yeah.
And so we went back into the well in the dream world, and with incredible foresight, like, while still, like, before the archaeologist had turned into a terrible plant monster and killed Percy Fawcett, Percy had managed to put an elder sign on the front door, like the front entrance into the pyramid of Bindal Daloom.
Oh.
And so when we
Wait,
came
who did
back
that?
into the Percy Fawcett, who was shot by the
Okay, yep,
archaeologist.
got him.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And so when we came back to the waking world, apparently Huondor tried to come through, and Huondor was this wizard that had done all of this stuff. He tried to come back through, but the Elder Sign held him back and forced him back into the dream world. Sort of
That was
like
awesome.
sort of like
Excellent.
Percy had the foresight to stop the end of the world, really. At least that's
Is that
what
how
it
you-
seemed like.
Is that how you guys discovered how to create the Elder Sign?
Well, we discovered to create the Elder Sign long before that with the Dark Child and Percy
Okay.
Fawcett,
But
Yusufus' friend Farnsworth.
Percy had it though too. Then.
Yes, Percy had the knowledge of the Elder Sign,
Mm.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
so he'd put a few of those around Bindal Daloom, and it just so happened that one of them was well placed, the entryway into.
Yeah.
He didn't share that knowledge with you. That missing powder that you need, the silvery powder.
He didn't see. We were given the
powder.
given the material components needed to do it.
Yeah.
Ultimately it creates this oil. Like the
Actually,
powder is.
actually, Professor Farnsworth was given a small amount of the oil by Professor Williamson before he left on his expedition, which was given to these guys. So they had enough oil for, like, 3 elder signs. Basically, what we're looking at here, Tom, is 2 different versions of the elder sign spell.
Okay.
They have access from finding the book Nameless Cults, I believe, or no, actually they have these Somerset tablets that Professor Farnsworth found in England that have the elder sign spell, and there's 2 versions of it. One version requires, in game terms, you sacrifice power. I think 2 power
Yeah.
to use an elder sign, which is a
Mm.
lot, man. 2
Mhm.
power. Come on. But there's a special version of it. If you are able to make this oil, you only have to use, I think, 9 magic points to make an elder sign. So they're in the process that they've got all of the ingredients they need except for this powder of Ibn Ghazi
Okay.
to use the oil version of the elder sign.
Right, to create more of that oil needed, which we never found out what it was until after we'd returned. Because we did return. After we came back from the dream worlds, we made the arduous trek back to the riverboat that we used to get into Honduras, and we managed to get back to British Columbia. And then,
Well, you wind up going back to Miskatonic.
yeah, and then
for a
we
short time.
ultimately ended up back in the Miskatonic.
We also told him about the tome.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, Tom, if you look under the handout section there are
that we
some
found.
at the somewhere in there is a index. Where is it? A books and spells index. And
Okay.
this is everything that they've discovered, mostly from this Nameless Cults book that was found during the Morgan expedition that was left behind by Williamson. Apparently,
Yes.
Williamson possessed a copy of this Nameless Cults. It's not the original. It's the Bridewell edition, which is an English translation, but it's got all this cool shit in it.
Much of what we have read and deciphered and figured out.
Yeah. So they know how to banish Dark Child. Yusuf has learned something called Command the Trees. Jacob has learned something called Command Airy Travelers. I believe a couple of them, Yusufus and Edgar, know the Elder Sign. And Jacob has also learned the Enchant Whistle spell, which goes along with Command Airy Travelers. He just needs to make the whistle. He's found the required iron meteorite material that he needs to make the whistle, and we're going to do that tonight.
Yes.
Here real
It should
quick.
be noted that Williamson, we did find he was dead, shot by Lockley along with the rest of his expedition. So our expedition was more or less a failure, as everybody from the old expedition died except for Jacob, and the expedition
And everything
that we
is
came
apparently
with, almost
being
everybody died as well.
Yeah, apparently everything's being kept pretty hush-hush about those 2 expeditions by Miskatonic University, and Dr. Henry Armitage has promised to kind of look into it further. But they've asked these guys to really not talk about it, what happened down there.
Yusufus was a very good friend of Colonel Percy Fawcett. Of course, Edgar never really met the guy, and Jacob got to know him, but didn't have too much time before he was brutally murdered.
Yeah, man. It was traumatic though. It definitely made an impression on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was traumatic.
They spent quite a bit of time, each of them, studying this Nameless Cults book. It took several months for them to fully study this thing, and they gained quite a bit of knowledge from it, as far as the real reality of the world, and what's really going on in relation to these things called the outer gods and great old ones, as well as these many cults around the world who seem to worship these beings and other things. They have quite a bit of information in this Nameless Cults book about these cults around the world.
Which is
And,
what Edgar is presently reading, because he's trying... I think Edgar is trying his best to ignore the implications of things like commandary travelers and command the trees, but is very interested indeed in figuring out figuring out what he can about the cults. And
And in
rooting
addition,
out the evil.
yeah, in addition, there are some other things in there that they haven't really taken on yet. There's something called Call Forth the Woodland Goddess.
Which we will never talk about, ever.
Yeah.
From the chapter in Nameless Cults on this fertility cult that apparently worships the sign of the three-headed goat. There's something there called Call Forth the Woodland Goddess. Also, something called Contact Brother from the chapter on the cult of cannibals and the Paris Underground. And also, in the chapter regarding a cult that worships an evil creature that lives in a stinking pit called Yog Sothoth.
Yes. Okay.
Call forth that which should not be.
That be, yes, I'm reading that. Okay. Yep.
Yeah,
I suggest
lots of
very
good stuff in
firmly
that
that we
book.
do not talk about Call Forth the Woodland Goddess, or that which should not be, if only because it lives in a stinking pit, which just... nothing good has ever come from a stinking pit.
Yeah. So Kyle's having some internet issues. He's working on it. So they spent some time studying this book, and then eventually they were introduced to this whole Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight in Boston by Dr. Edward Call, a friend and compatriot of yours.
And that's how I know. Okay. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Maybe you found out from him as well. And you have all joined this order, and the rest is just kind of history, except for maybe what these guys have done within the last couple of months after becoming part of this order.
It might also be of some passing interest that Edgar got to the Dreamlands not through the Honduras, but instead he was exploring some Indian burial ground underneath Missouri.
It was the Cahokia Indian Mounds in Illinois. We actually went there last weekend. It's pretty cool.
Did. He was exploring the catacombs underneath the Cahokia Indian Mounds,
And he got to the dream world that way?
and he got to the dream world that way, and met up with these guys. And then he merged in Honduras, the other side. way down south.
Yeah. So as far as Van Helsing is concerned, these characters here, some of the leadership figures of the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, like Carl Stanford, John Scott, especially those two. You've had sort of congenial relationships with these guys. They seem like, pretty above board, nothing too, strange or anything like that. But, you haven't really taken the time. Nothing has really occurred for Dr. Van Helsing that would, make him think that there's something strange or weird or anything going on.
So basically, with the knowledge we have in regards to, there are definitely organizations and groups of people that are trying to do these types of things. And to that point, we found some historical information about John Scott's family.
Mm.
And this is back in the 1700s.
Oh, wait, no, I know this story. I grew up around here. This is where he was hung, wasn't he?
Well, apparently there was some
burned or something?
Yeah, there were some unholy activities out at his farmhouse, and someone found out about it. Basically, a group of people, I guess law enforcement or possibly citizens, got together and basically went out there and took care of business. And yeah, they burned him.
Burned alive? Yep.
Yeah. So it's just very coincidental, that here this same name, same location, involved in some type of hermetic order.
This is where the tales of the secret caverns were underneath his farmhouse.
Exactly. Yeah, I read
this article.
Yeah, I found this little clipping in this book very, just happened to find it in the antique, books, the old books. It was just random loose piece of paper, basically.
Yeah, it was an obscure book on demonology that you found in the library.
Mm.
Hmm.
So there you go.
It told of a vigilante raid on the farm of John Scott in 1721, and the writer Clyde Whipple was one of the armed men who led the attack. And he describes the weird sounds and chants they and their families heard at night, the disquieting foreigners who began to gather in the area, and the predations of local grave robbers. The writer was horrified by what he saw during the raid, and he also discusses where John Scott's farmhouse stood. And eventually they figured out that John Scott's farmhouse stood in the exact same spot as the lodge of the Hermetic
Exactly.
Silver Twilight. And subsequently they found even more information and writings of the narrative of Clyde Whipple, handout 1 down there. They found some more that Clyde Whipple had said about the incident later on.
Erase.
Yes, he was attacked and captured, found guilty of witchcraft by acclamation, burned alive in an enormous bonfire, and buried in an unmarked, unhallowed grave, all on the same day before 7 o'clock in the evening. Neighbors swore that he had created monsters and brought the dead to life in secret caverns located on his farm.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all kind of shocking stuff to Van Helsing. And you really have never known Jacob to be interested in the occult or, anything mysterious like this, but he seems pretty serious, and his friends do too.
Oh, we're deadly serious.
Yes.
Deadly serious. This is serious stuff, man. We can totally understand if you don't want to be involved, Doctor. Or it's pretty.
Well, Sean, what is my backstory here? I mean, do I have a purpose here regarding my daughter?
Well, let's figure that out. I mean, for one thing, you do have sort of a passing interest in the occult, let's say, which kind of, drove you to join this order, because they do talk a lot about philosophy and science and religion and the occult and things, and they've taught you some things since you've been there. Dr. Edward Call does have sort of a passing interest in the occult too. But I don't know, what did you have in mind as far as your daughter? Because I'm assuming your daughter would probably be, in her 30s or thereabout at this time.
Right. Well, again, not knowing, all the background and all about the backstory, but something to the fact that she, either got tangled up with these, with this lodge, or there was some disappearance, or somebody saw her there last, and I've been trying to infiltrate and basically find more about where she might have ended up.
Ooh, how about
and that's kind of that's my reason for joining this lodge, is trying to find her, because I believe for some reason she's somehow connected, or her disappearance is somehow connected to these people.
Well, that's concerning, and that definitely ramps up our timetable here, I think.
Well, I have an idea.
Maybe she was married to one of the cultists and disappeared.
No, I have a better idea. She was a reporter for the Boston Globe, and perhaps she had come across some of this same information. Maybe not quite as much as Jacob and the others had come across, and maybe she suspected that this John Scott and Carl Stanford weren't entirely above board, and she was investigating what was going on at this lodge, especially having to do with foreigners and sort of seedy types, being part of the organization and things like that. And maybe she let you know this. I mean, you're her father, so she said, "Well, Dad, I've been investigating this Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, and I think there may be something sinister going on there. There's something weird, but I haven't been able to dig very deep yet." And just kind of in passing, maybe she had mentioned it to you. And so when Dr. Call, meets you one day and says, "Hey, there's this new lodge, this fraternal organization, why don't you come and join with me?" Maybe you thought, well, maybe right around that time, you hadn't heard from your daughter for a week or two, and she's missing.
Yep. That's it.
And that's it.
Exactly, and I'm looking for. So I don't reveal that to anybody at the lodge, but I do bring it up to Jacob because he knows her. He grew up with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very concerning. Like I said, that definitely adds another layer of sinister possibilities here. You know?
Yeah, and there was the fairly recent story. It's been a couple of months now, but there was a story about a Mr. James Clark, who was an attorney, who was apparently a member of the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, as well as a member at the Friends at Masonic Hall, who had gone missing. And there's the only evidence that the police have leading up to his disappearance is that an omnibus driver reported seeing a passenger resembling Mr. Clark heading towards Boston at about 2:30 in the morning. And that was it. And I should note that maybe upon review, one of you may make the connection. Like, remember how the initiation ceremonies? Do you remember what time of the day that those initiation ceremonies were taking place?
Yeah, like early 3 in the morning or something like that,
3
right?
in the morning.
Yeah, which you guys found kind of odd. So, there may be sort of a connection there. I mean, he was going into Boston at 2:30 in the morning on a bus.
Right.
And he was an order of the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, who expressed dismay when apprised of his disappearance.
Yeah. Kyle, it looks like Kyle is down and out for the night, man.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, it looks like his, it's more like an actual provider problem, not just a router or a local issue, you know?
Yeah, he was saying everybody in the house is having problems, and it's just not.
Yeah, it looks like his connection actually just went down, you know?
All right, well, that's a bummer.
So, yeah, he's pretty pissed about it. I told him he should take his router and violate it.
Well, we'll see. Maybe he'll be able to join us here.
Yeah, but this is good. I mean, it's good. I think it's good to catch Tom up with everything and get him, into the details. So
yeah, I like it. And I got a mission now, and I've got a connection. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm here. So that's why I was kind of surprised to see you here, Jacob. I was hoping maybe you'd seen my daughter. Apparently not.
No, but fortune is funny, isn't it? The fates have brought us together, and it looks like we're looking at the same thing. So let's pursue this.
So you have concerns about the Order of the Silver Twilight. You're not.
Oh yes,
you're not an eager member.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, of course, because the possibility that they do have knowledge, and that's when I tell Tom about the how we've been approached by John Scott all separately, kind of slowly, but basically letting us know that there's degrees above the publicly known levels. So above master, there's 3 other degrees?
Yes. You were each approached by John Scott, who kind of subtly asked you if you would like more knowledge and more power. And
more insanity.
Yeah, and he told you that there are some secret ranks within the order above and beyond the public ranks. The first or fourth rank, beyond master, which you all have attained, is Keeper of the Silver Gate, which is the first secret rank. The second secret rank is Knight of the Outer Void. The third secret rank is Son of Yog Sothoth. And the final and highest secret rank is what they call Wizard. And they've been
Nothing
told,
too eerie, right?
yeah. And
I want to be a wizard.
all of you have gone through, the initiation of the public degrees where you're all required to say an oath. And you were told you were not going to have to do anything immoral or embarrassing or anything like that. You were taught the secret handshake of the order and stuff like that, but nothing really. You were given access to some occult books in the public, in the library,
but not the real books.
Yeah. So you were all able to gain some occult knowledge, which I already added to your character sheet, Tom.
Okay.
You spent some time at the lodge reading some of these occult books and have gained some occult knowledge. But yeah, they promise that these higher levels will confer more about the noble purposes of the order. They tell you, and more knowledge.
Yeah, and we recognize some of the, like, the what is it, the silver twilight. There's a reference to the Knights of the Silver Twilight, and then I believe Yog Sothoth too. I think we've seen that in maybe the Nameless Cults book.
Yes, the only reference you could find, you did find something called the Knights of the Silver Twilight in an old book, in an old occult, or actually, you had found it in two separate locations. You did find a reference to it in Nameless Cults, and also in a cult book that you found at the library.
Right.
And these guys, were talked about as being those that guard those hours when no power of the will or drug that the cunning of man devises can keep from the chasm of sleep. Death is merciful, for there is no return therefrom. But with him who has come back out of the nethermost chambers of night, haggard and knowing, peace rests nevermore. And it goes on to some other gibberish. Fools that we are to plunge with such unsanctioned frenzy into mysteries no man was meant to penetrate. Fool or god that he was, who led me and went before me, and who in the end passed into terrors which may yet be mine, goes the narrative. That's related to the Knights of the Silver Twilight. As far as Yog Sothoth, the only information you can find in Nameless Cults on that is it seems to have something to do with Yog Sothoth being something that these cultists call the key and the gate, whatever that is.
But you can see the connectivity. I mean, here we are talking about this particular organization, and this stuff is referenced in these other materials.
Right. Which is really kind of disconcerting to
Absolutely.
To Edgar especially, who's trying his darndest to find some redeemable quality to these people and the knowledge that they seem to be safeguarding rather than, like, teaching, because, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I would definitely
But
kind of encourage Edgar to look at it like this, you know, that any knowledge that we have, that we get, we can use ourselves for good.
right. Well, see, that's what Edgar's trying to come to terms with, is the idea that these people might actually be just like these cults that are referenced in the book. And I mean, I'm sure that Nameless Cults has just tons of references to the evil deeds of these cults. Like, they mention a cannibal cult in Paris.
Yeah, there seems to be a correlation too between, you know, learning this knowledge. There's a price to pay. Right, with the spells and stuff, like with the whistle, you know, you got to sacrifice power, or, you know, as you're learning this stuff, you're sacrificing sanity. I mean, it's screwing with your mind. So, and that's the balance too, right? Like, these people definitely have knowledge that we could probably gain, depending on how far we want to go along. But, you know, considering that the doctor's daughter has disappeared,
that does.
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how much.
That adds a level of. That adds a whole new kind of light of distrust for the organization. Where at first I think Edgar would have been like, "Oh yeah, no, we're totally just gonna join this, and we're gonna learn all of their knowledge, and then we're gonna leave if we have to, or if we want to, and if we can help people with that knowledge, then great." But now it seems to take more of like somebody's in trouble.
A dark, sinister turn. I don't trust these guys.
Have done something probably very bad, and they're not telling anybody about it, and it's time that they answer for that.
You know, I think also, again, you know, trying to actually do some type, you know, sneaking into the manor itself seems very risky to me. trying to find these subterranean, some type of way to get into the bottom of this place seems more likely, as far as like some type of stealthy assault, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you guys do know, just from being part of the organization, there is a third floor to this place that you haven't been invited to yet. You would also know at this point that the place does apparently have a basement, because you've all noticed at one time or another that there is a stairway that goes down back near the kitchen area. So, being masters, apparently, we'll say this. At least some of you would know, or at least one of you would know, and probably pass it on to the others, that perhaps one of you asked one of the members one time, like, hey, what's up on the third floor? And they told you, well, the third floor is not finished yet. There's construction going on, and we hope to have it open by early next year to expand, upon the lodge. But
Well,
it's
it
just,
would
it's,
be, it would
yeah,
be,
it's
Have
not
we
a-
noticed any construction
yeah,
debris?
it would be so obvious if
No.
that were true.
no,
No,
Okay.
no. There's no. How
Yeah.
about like saws or construction people?
no.
That's just a
not
blatant
really.
lie then. I mean, in order to do construction, you have to have something to construct with.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably where they're doing the evil rituals.
Yeah, probably. That's probably where the further groups.
I mean, the existence of the third floor is obvious to anyone just looking at the building from the outside.
Of course, it could also be
Okay.
John Scott's personal floor.
Well, I mean,
That has a ring of truth to it because the dog reacted.
I don't think that we should just.
The dog
like,
knew.
Exactly.
The dog knew. Yeah,
I don't
that is
think that
John
we should-
Scott's private lair.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So yeah, the third floor is not finished. It can't be reached, and eventually, as the lodge grows, the floor will be finished and used. You are assured.
Uh-huh.
It can be
I'm
reached
sure
by
we're assured by
dynamite.
John Scott, no less. I think that it would be unwise to just try and meander into the lower parts of the house. I mean, we have no idea what kind of security this place actually has.
Yeah, no. I don't want to do that. But again, I'm trying to reach out. I mean, is there any way that I could learn of the local geography around here, of possible caves, any geological structures?
Yeah, I'm looking
You know,
through the papers.
go
I think they
spelunking.
mentioned that I think one of these papers actually mentioned that John Scott, or whoever the guy who was burned as a witch, apparently, that guy was making monsters and like raising the
Right.
dead in the catacombs underneath his house. So there's
I'm
kind
just
of
wondering,
direct evidence there that there is.
Is there another way in though? Could I go into the hills and find another way in, and then approach it from underground?
Right.
Tom's
what I'm
looking.
getting at.
Tom's looking. Are there any cave structures nearby that could possibly join up?
Correct.
Can always
With
make
that
one.
Mammoth Cave. It's like 20 miles long, and it's got 20 different entrances. You just got to know where
Yeah.
they're at.
Yeah, there
Well,
could
the
be
house-
some obscure stuff too.
Unless it's
Yeah,
man-made.
the lodge is currently
hand-dug.
located in a residential neighborhood in the fashionable district of Cambridge. It's college town, basically, but it's in the upscale sort of part of town. And the nearest caves would probably be out towards the bay, which lies, several miles away.
Maybe sewers.
2 miles or 30 miles?
Sewers, I think, would be a good place to check first. I agree.
Maybe they converted some of those caverns into sewage or something.
I think I may actually have made a map.
Because the land was vacant until recently.
Right.
So somebody had to do something with those catacombs, right? If they weren't filled in, then something happened.
Things built up around here. I
Yeah.
mean, some of these old buildings might have basements that go deep into the ground, and
Well, that was the
You know.
other thing. Like, looking at the map and looking at the old information, we can basically tell where the old cemetery was, like what buildings are around that area. So
What's
we
on
haven't,
that now?
well, we haven't gone over there and actually tried to, look in the basements of those places, right?
Right.
I mean, the other thing too is we really don't know, who owns them. Could you buy the building? Who knows?
And you actually haven't been able to figure out where this Anglican graveyard was moved to. You know that it once existed near the Scott farm. Within 100 yards, a couple hundred yards of it was this old cemetery that was moved in the late 1700s, but you guys haven't yet been able to find out exactly where it was moved to.
And why was it moved exactly?
It just was.
Well, probably because after the defilement, they probably wanted to move the bodies out of there, man.
You know what? I like
Right.
So
this.
again,
Who wants their
relative.
relative?
The ground was like opening up and bodies were falling underneath the ground. Like they had to move the bodies away. Like where
I like
would this graveyard have been?
Well, the
100 yards from the house.
I like this line of investigation. Perhaps the best thing to do then would be to go find public records of construction in the area, see how over time the local neighborhood or the
Developed.
Yeah, how it developed, especially as far as sewers and underground constructs.
You could also look for anomalies, like people that were building, if they had like ran into like a cave that they had to fill in, or something like that.
Okay. So where would we go to do something like that? City Hall? Maybe.
Yeah, that's
public
the public
records.
Yeah, public records, and it would definitely be like the building inspector.
What time of day is it?
Saturday afternoon.
Shall we go to make some inquiries?
So absolutely. Yeah, we can go to the public works people, and then we can also head over to the library, possibly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe City Hall, see if that could do anything, because I know that there's records of such things in City Hall too.
Also, possibly the papers, as far as like any kind of collapse or cave-in or anything like that.
Well, that's definitely going to be at the library if there's
That's
any evidence of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, man. So first, we'll head over to the public works, the building inspector, looking at as far as development from like that 1700 point. After they burnt the guy and they destroyed the farmhouse. As far as like what was built around that area.
And even a title search. Who bought the land afterward?
Yeah.
And who passed it down? All that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joan Skoda.
It's actually pretty odd. Number one, the chain of title of the property really doesn't make sense. It was owned by a couple of different families through the early 1800s, through the mid 1800s, and then it was vacant for some time during the late 1800s. In 1914, thereabouts, it was purchased by a George Wilson, and the title is currently held by a George Wilson of Boston. As far as the graveyard, you're not able to find anything about this Anglican graveyard. And maybe one of you inquires, one of the people working there, and they tell you that, well, the common assumption would be that in the late 1700s is when they started building up the Cambridge area to accommodate the University of Boston, and to build more, suburban neighborhoods and things like this. So, the common assumption would be that the graveyard was moved to make room for just urban development purposes. But you can't find any records of where this graveyard was moved to.
That seems like a strange option, given that they could have just built the neighborhood around the graveyard.
Sounds like they built the university on top of the graveyard.
Yeah, What
Something like
records?
that, yeah.
So, what records do we even have that the Anglican graveyard existed? Scott's farmhouse stood just.
You
100
don't.
rods north
All
of
you
the-
have is the mention.
Mm.
Dimension of yeah.
You
In,
know, we
let's see,
could go there to the graveyard or the previous place that it stood. It says 100 rods north of the old Anglican graveyard.
Yeah,
So
so
if we just
just
go
draw a
from-
big circle around this house, 100 yards. What buildings are there?
Well, then it's north.
Yeah, so we can
You
just go
know,
directly south
and-
of the lodge because the lodge is built exactly where the farm is. And
Yeah,
we'll be
and so-
standing on top of the old graveyard.
yeah, I have since found out that a rod, the old term a rod, is roughly equal to 3 yards, I believe.
Okay, so where does that put us on the map, Sean? Is it a home? Is it an apartment building? Is it a
Well, let me look.
business?
Where in these handouts does it say that the graveyard was moved? Which one is it?
It's actually right here. I don't know if you can see that in the narrative of Clyde Whipple. It's the second.
Yeah.
The second one. Scott's farmhouse stood just 100 rods north of the old Anglican graveyard, near the Cambridge Road. That cemetery was later removed nearer to the bay.
So where's the Cambridge Road?
Yeah,
100
Cambridge Road still exists. And 100 rods would be what, about 1,000 feet, I guess, a little less
Yep.
than that. Just south of the location of the farmhouse. So we're looking at, maybe a quarter mile, less than that. And it's all residential neighborhoods in this area. And there's no sign, there's no landmark or marker or anything. There's no sign that this graveyard ever even really existed.
Okay.
But we're talking, 1780s is apparently that's the only information you could find that this graveyard was moved. You've confirmed that it has been moved. It was moved in the 1780s.
Okay. Is there any way to find out what graveyards might have? I don't know if graveyards like open or anything. What, like any graveyards near the bay that opened or were constructed or whatever you want to call it, dug near the bay? What graveyards were created?
No
in
public
that?
records are found concerning that.
Okay. Are there public records of graveyards near the bay?
Yes,
How many graveyards are near the bay?
several,
Hmm.
at least a
Like-
half a dozen.
Half a dozen?
The,
Well,
the trick would be if you could find some names
Yes,
from,
exactly.
from the original Anglican graveyard,
And dates.
family names, and then you could look to see if any of those people were in these new, because most of the graveyards you can go and they'll have basically graveyard books that'll like map out the graveyards at the local library and the public works stuff,
right. Well,
But-
the alternative.
but that may not, but that's only if that was recorded. I mean, sometimes that stuff wasn't recorded.
Right. Well, I mean, of course, the
You
alternative
know.
would be to go to the 6 or so graveyards that are nearby the bay. And,
Well, let me just tell you this, Alex. After spending, several hours trying to track down this graveyard or didn't gain any information about it, you determine, along with help of maybe some of the employees there at the Public Records Office, there seem to be some records missing of the relocation of this particular graveyard.
so they were actively missing.
Hmm.
Does the library that I'm at keep any records of like stolen documents or anything that might have been gone missing and when?
No,
Okay.
it's just it becomes pretty obvious that there should be some record, even if it's just an entry in a ledger book or something. There should be some account. You should be able to. There should be a paper trail of some kind.
Okay, how about this?
Yeah.
Of the half dozen graveyards that are on the bay, which 5 can I find records on? Which one can I not find anything on? And that's the one I go to.
You find records on all of them.
Hmm.
Well, that's fine. Maybe we can just visit the graveyards and ask. Maybe there's a groundskeeper who says, "Oh yeah, this graveyard was built in the."
Well, I think going to the graveyards and recon in each one of them is not a bad idea.
All right, let's do that. I agree.
That's not a bad idea. We'll take the limo, and I'll throw the Cthulhu pack in the trunk along with the BAR. You know, we're all armed with, at least I have my pistol.
Okay.
All right, my
Trench coat, and shotgun.
fire starters kit that I have, and my shovel, I guess. Again.
Pretty good. We'll start with the. We'll just do it sequentially. You know,
Oh,
whichever
that
is the first
shotgun
one.
that
And
Jacob lent me, I guess we'll also stick in the back.
oh yeah,
Okay.
gotta have the gauge.
All right. So you spend the afternoon trucking around some graveyards down in the Bay Area of Boston, and nothing really seems to stand out. You talk to several people about whether they know anything about this Anglican graveyard that was in the Cambridge area that was moved in the 1700s. Some people even point you to some churches. You know, some of these graveyards are associated with certain churches,
Right.
and they have records. You know, and you're pretty certain after spending the afternoon that this Anglican graveyard that stood pretty near to John Scott's farm seems to have just basically disappeared.
Oh.
Like it doesn't. There is nothing really corresponds to.
So how about this?
You would think if it was an Anglican graveyard that there would be some association with the Anglican Church or something like that, but there's not even that. None of these graveyards seem to be associated with anything remotely Anglican or.
Guys, I think they just
From that time period, even from that time period, none of the graveyards have ever been moved. They've been there since, you know.
So how about this? There's just no bodies left because they used them all. They didn't move the graveyard. The graveyard just went away because there was nothing. There were no bodies left to be buried
That's
there.
what I'm thinking, dude. I think they just took down.
Says Dr. Helsing, Van Helsing.
I think
Yes.
I think they moved the graveyard so that they could just take the residents of the
Yeah.
graveyard.
Exactly. They're using the bodies for some unknown purpose.
I mean, let's see.
That graveyard just disappeared.
When
the
was
body.
when was the serial killer who went around and stole bodies and sold, like, or he killed people and then sold their bodies to science? Maybe something like that was what went on. Is the rational person who doesn't believe in ghouls.
Oh, come on, Edgar. You've
know
seen the
the
dream
reason
world.
dead?
You've seen the dream world. Crazier things. Anything's possible.
So yeah, the graveyard, the cemetery itself, and all that it contains seem to have just disappeared.
Well, Jacob, if they're keeping bodies, I think that the only place they could keep them would be underground, right?
Exactly. Back to can we find a building to go in, or one of these residential homes,
Back to
something that
square
has a
one.
basement?
Well, let me ask you this: on either side of the lodge, are there homes? Are there businesses?
Yes, it is a residential neighborhood.
It's a residential area. Okay.
Yes, it stands upon, a street that has just rows of these very, large, usually 3-story, brick and mortar, old-fashioned Boston manors. These homes, they're
Any of them for sale or vacant?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, there are some for sale in the area.
What about on either side of this place?
The closest is on the next street over, about 5 houses down from the lodge.
I go check it out. Let's go check this house out. I might buy a house.
That sounds great. Yeah, we'll go look in the basement.
Absolutely.
Nothing
Dead
out of
bodies
the
everywhere.
Edgar has his shovel with him.
Yeah. Nothing really out of the ordinary. I mean, you guys spend quite a bit of time down in the basement, with the shovel. And I mean, if you want to start digging, let me know. But, as far as any, anything that may be covered up and it's a lot of these basements are very large, unmortared stones. that are just kind of stacked up that support the foundation of the house. And a lot of these homes, are 100 years old or older. Some of them are new construction. This one happens to be an older home, built in the 1840s. But you're not really able to find anything unusual in this particular house, at least in the basement.
I don't know, gentlemen.
What year were metal detectors invented?
Yeah, not now.
Quite a bit later, I think.
Yeah, World War II.
World War II. Yep. Probably late 30s, I would imagine.
Yeah. Probably for minesweeping.
You got it. Yep. All comes from the military tech, doesn't it?
Yep.
Everybody, give me a spot hidden.
Hold on. In 1874, Parisian inventor Gustave Trouve developed a handheld device for locating and extracting metal objects such as bullets, human patients.
When was that?
The development of the modern metal detector began in the 1920s. Gerard Fisher had developed a system of radio direction finding, which was to be used for accurate navigation. The application for a handheld metal detector was filed in February of 1924.
Anybody know this guy and where he's inventing this thing?
Yeah. So I could note, if you guys just want to look at the map here of the lodge, if you're thinking about this. So the layout here, this is the main floor, where the lounge and the dining room and the foyer and everything is. These are the stairs. These are the stairs back down here. Okay, you made your spot hidden?
Yep.
Yeah, everybody roll their spot hidden.
How do I roll? I'm sorry. I'm lost that one.
The easiest way to do it, Tom, would just be to click the D100 macro at the bottom of your screen, or click the skill check macro, which will let you just type in spot or something like that, and it'll roll a D100 for you.
Oh, I see here.
Or you can type in the chat /R.
Nope, I found it. What'd I get?
90.
Oh, 96. I spot nothing.
So Jacob made it.
Alright, sorry, what am I rolling for? I was reading up on...
Spot hidden, please.
Okay, spot hidden. Spot hidden. Done.
So with these 90s, man.
Yeah. Digital dice. So Jacob, you made it, right?
Yep.
All right, check that skill. As you guys are leaving the house, a few hours later, after investigating the basement, you guys get into the old Packard, the limo you're driving around, and you pull down to the end of the street, heading home or wherever you're going.
Knuckles is driving.
Yeah, and you see just something. This may not mean anything, but you just notice this. There's an omnibus, like a public bus, that kind of scoots along in front of you and passes right in front of your car. And in one of the bus windows, you see this dark-skinned guy with a fez on his head, a hat.
We'll follow his ass.
And he's actually, his face, you see his face distinctly as the bus goes by, and he kind of cranes his neck like this, and he's looking at you as he's going by.
We'll follow the bus, man.
We have active evidence that not the Colts, but the Lodge of the Silver Twilight members use these omnibuses for something.
I'm like, Knuckles, did you see how that guy just eyeballed us? Follow that son of a bitch.
No, I didn't see him, boss. Yeah, I'll follow him. So he pulls, you pull the old 66 or whatever it's called, your Packard out, and you're following this bus around. And I suppose you're waiting for this guy to get off the bus or something, right?
Oh, yeah. Well.
Okay, you follow him for a good half hour. The bus makes several stops, a dozen stops. Nobody with a fez gets off. And he's like, Ben's like, you want to keep following the bus, boss?
Maybe I should get on the bus and take it. Did we still see the Fez in there?
No, not from behind the bus where you guys are. And when the bus turns, you can't it's
Well,
kind of hard to see in the sun.
on this
the
next
glare of the sun.
stop, maybe I can get out, take the bus, and then you can keep trailing him, and I can figure out what the guy wants from inside the bus. That makes any sense? Confront the man in the bus? You can't rightly do anything in a bus. It's a public setting.
Oh, he could. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know about confronting the guy in the bus. We might want to pull up and see if he's still, have Knuckles pull up alongside the bus and see if he's still in there.
He disappeared.
You do. You don't see him on that side of the bus. It's the same side of the bus you saw him in. You don't see him though. At least he's not sitting near the window. You're kind of looking up, at the bus. You don't see him. And the bus starts kind of pulling away.
All right, this next stop, I'd like to get on the bus.
Yeah, a couple of us will go over there, man. At the next stop.
Sounds good to me. Have been followed.
Who wants to board the bus?
I sure do.
I'll get on the bus.
Sure, I will as well.
When Ben's just gonna follow.
Yeah, tell Ben to follow, and if something crazy happens, to feel free to join in.
Okay. You guys board the bus, and kind of towards the back, the rear quarter of the bus, you see a dark-skinned man sitting back there in an aisle seat, and he's wearing a kind of sort of dark green fez with a gold tassel. And he seems to be reading a newspaper.
All right, I'm going to approach, and I'm going to offer the lodge handshake.
I'm going to sit down and pretend I don't know any of these guys.
Yeah, I'll do the same. I'll sit on the other side, away from the doctor, and just pull out my paper.
All right, so Casey extends his hand, did the secret handshake. The man looks up at you from his seat.
I smile.
And he kind of squints his eyes at you, and he pulls out some spectacles from his coat pocket, and he puts them on. And he says, yes? He says, do I know you? He sounds African, possibly.
Well, you might. I'm here from the lodge. I'm heading the same direction as you.
He says, the lodge? What is this lodge you speak?
Oh, well, I know a couple fellas from a local lodge who wear fezzes just like you.
Thank you.
It is quite nice.
Thank you very much, he says.
May I join you? Wait, is he sitting with someone?
He says, yes, certainly. No, there's a space next to him. So you sit next to him.
So I start making small talk, asking about,
So you know how to make elder signs or what?
So where are you from? What
what
sub-Saharan country are you from?
Yeah, where how long has he been in Boston? Where he's from?
He doesn't speak very good English, apparently. He has a little trouble understanding what you're saying to him. He kind of gets the gist, but he's kind of giving you, sometimes he's just giving you answers like he's misunderstanding you, and his answers don't seem to make sense a lot of the time. But you do gather that, yes, he is from Africa. He says he's from East Africa. He's here studying at the university. His name is Mambu.
What is he studying?
He says he's studying economics.
I ask if he's ever heard of the Silver Twilight Lodge.
No. What is Twilight? No. Silver Twilight? No.
I give him the gist. You know, it's a all-accepting lodge of philosophers and intellectuals to discuss all matter of philosophy and intellectual matters.
I have to step away for just a second. Continue playing, okay?
Got it.
He looks confused, Edgar. He's like, you are of the lodge?
I smile and I nod. I say, we're always looking for new members.
Yes.
I give him the address. By the way, does he seem to be like actively like ignoring the is he lying when he says he's not from the lodge or anything?
Hard to tell.
Okay. I ask why he wears the fez.
He says it is my family belong to, and he gives you some kind of African gibberish that you don't really understand. Apparently, it's some sort of African fraternal organization of scholars, is the best that you can guess that he's trying to tell you.
What manner of scholars? I
He
ask
says
with a great deal of interest.
He says, academics, economic, mathematic, cultural studies, scientific studies, those sorts of things.
Have they made any interesting breakthroughs?
No, not, no. Why do you ask? He says. And now he takes his spectacles off again, and he's like, he's kind of, he seems to be interested. He's kind of squinting his eyes at you, like, why do you ask?
Well, my friend, I myself am quite interested in such things. I try to keep tabs on anything related to the sciences. Why, that's why I joined the Silver Twilight Lodge to begin with. You know, they offer quite a great deal of information and knowledge relating to obscure and interesting facts that maybe universities don't necessarily teach. They have quite an interesting library. I'd very much like to see the library of your lodge, or of your fraternal order.
He says, well, you would have to come to Africa.
Something I would very much be interested in doing someday.
Yes, you should.
And then, I guess, as the bus comes to the next stop, I'll say...
He says, this is my stop. It has been pleasant meeting you, Mr. Casey.
And you,
What?
Mr. What's his name?
He just gave you his first name. It was Mambo or something like that.
Yeah.
What
And you,
stop
Mr.
are we at?
Rabu.
Where do we stop at? What
You guys are back in Cambridge now, near the university.
All right.
So as soon as the bus stops, man, I'll get off and I'll walk back to the car.
I'll get off and walk towards Cambridge to the university. I'll just start walking that direction.
Okay. He gets off and he starts just walking down the street, back in the direction the bus was coming from.
I'm going to stay on the bus for a couple minutes and then try to approach the bus driver and discreetly, like, oh, you know, that was my stop. I'm sorry, I was not paying attention. May I get off here?
Yeah, he stops the bus.
Thank you very much. And I guess I'll tip him some money or something and get off the bus.
Okay. All right.
And then head that way.
So Ben and I are trying to eyeball him. We don't want to get too close in the car, you know?
Okay. He walks into a small cafe down the street.
What's the cafe called?
It's called Margie's Tea House.
Are there other befezzed people?
No.
I think
Are you going in?
let's send Knuckles in there.
Yeah,
Since
there
he
we
hasn't
go.
seen he hasn't seen him at all.
Good call.
Yeah, we'll keep the limo down the street car, a little bit so we can see
Okay.
at least into the window, and we'll send Knuckles in there.
Okay.
He is the agency detective.
And then I'll
Yeah.
meet up with the guys in the car.
Knuckles comes out after about 5 minutes, and he says, "Mr. Crowninshield, he's not in there. I didn't see him. I checked the men's room, checked the ladies' room. He's not in there.
He must have exited through the back.
No, there's no back end. There's no back entrance. It's locked.
Are there stairs? Pantry? Anything?
There is a second floor. It looks like a residence above the tea house.
Oh, maybe that's where he's staying. You guys want to stake this place out for a bit?
Yes. And note this place. Write down the address, all that good stuff.
Sure,
Okay.
maybe we should have Ben inquire to the barkeep or whatever the owner of this joint. Ask if he knows.
Well, he could be like, hey man, is this place upstairs for rent?
Yeah, there we go.
Can I rent this place? What's the deal, man? I'll give, see, and then he'll respond, hopefully be like, fuck off, or, whatever. Who knows?
Ben's
But,
got an awesome fast talk, so he can probably
Yeah.
fast talk his way.
Yeah, let him-
Well, there's a couple apparently, a young couple who runs the tea house that Ben is questioning about this, and no, the place is not for rent. It's the resident of the owner. It's the resident of Margaret Weiss who owns the place.
Margaret Weiss.
Yeah.
Do we know that name?
Nope.
Do we know the last name Weiss? Was that perhaps a member of the
Uh,
lodge?
It's a fairly common name. No, you don't know of any Weisses that belong to the lodge.
Okay.
Mm.
Maybe it's nothing.
Well, this guy had to go somewhere.
That's true.
What
he
the
did.
hell? What? I
Maybe
mean,
maybe he's just a friend of Weiss.
I don't know, man. He's either upstairs or there's some other exit out of this place, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
I
would
mean,
think.
logic demands, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess we can stake it out.
Is there so there's no back alley entrance out of this place, or is there?
There is, but Ben told you that there was a lock. There's like a padlock on the back door, on the inside.
Okay.
So unless he had a key.
Right.
Mm.
Well, I'll go back and I'll look in the alley. Does it look disturbed? Does it look like the door's been opened? Does it, you know what I mean?
Roll your luck, Lee.
Okay. Let's see here. What's my luck roll? Okay. Nepa.
Mm.
I'm not lucky.
Yeah, it doesn't look like this door is used very often. It looks like, it's probably where they take deliveries,
Okay.
for the bread and stuff that they serve in this place. Tea, coffee, such.
Does the place
Gotcha.
have a basement?
I don't know.
Can we see any evidence of a basement from the foundation? Any little windows or anything?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are some kind of painted over basement windows in the back alley.
Ah, here we go.
Oh!
Okay.
Kind of
Here we go.
narrow,
How
long windows that look like they've been painted over from the inside with white paint.
Alright.
How about like one of those coal chutes or like those doors that open up, like remember on Wizard of Oz where the
Yeah.
chick went in there for the hurricane or the tornado when she was coming?
Yeah,
Like one of those.
Yeah, there is a coal chute. But it's also been painted over with like a thick black paint. It looks like it's been sealed for some time. The paint's chipping off here and there. It looks
I'm
like
gonna
it's been
go in the
sealed for a while.
place.
So wait.
Wait.
I tell everybody, I'm like, well, hold on here a second.
Can we look through some of the chipped paint? Can I get an eye in there?
You
Down
mean
in
the
this
basement
alley?
windows? No.
Yeah.
No, they're pretty well painted over with white paint on the inside, it looks like.
Okay.
The coal chute's been painted over with this thick, kind of tarry substance. It looks like just thick, probably several coats of paint, and it's been painted shut, you know. Doesn't look like it's been used for a while.
I'm gonna go in the front entrance of this place.
Okay, you do.
I'm gonna seek out the owner.
The couple there tells you that the owner's not in right now. Is there something that we can help you with, sir?
Well, okay, so the people who seem to be in charge of the place, I'm going to approach them and offer the lodge handshake.
Yeah, and there are some patrons in here too. There's about a half a dozen people sitting around drinking tea. And
Is Mabu around?
no, you don't see him in there.
Okay.
So you're extending your hand to what, the man?
Yeah.
Or he just kind of looks at you and sticks out his hand and just shakes your hand.
I smile
he
and I
says-
say,
He says, Reginald Duffy, pleased to meet you.
Edgar Casey, pleased to meet you. This is quite a
He
fine
says-
establishment you've got here.
Why, thank you. He says, the owner, Margaret, should be along later on this afternoon if you have business, or I can leave it. I can give her a message for you if you like.
Oh no, I'm just looking for somebody. Say, what kind of tea do you serve here?
Oh, he says, we serve all kinds. What would you like?
And I order some long tea, maybe biscuits or something.
Okay, you do.
I'll have a nice meal in the place. Start looking for Mabu.
All right. That'll be 15 cents.
Mhm.
uh,
I'm
So
also
we'll,
going to be kind of eyeballing this place, looking for like stairwells or.
Meanwhile,
cellar
back at the Hall of
doors.
Justice, we're here. We're here in the back, I guess, in the alley. This coal chute is locked shut, or it's
Well, it's painted shut.
painted shut.
It looks like it could be pried open, you know, if given the right tool and a little bit of elbow grease, you could probably pry it open. I mean, it doesn't appear to be latched or locked or anything, because, you know, these old coal chutes, they used to just kind of, you know, close by gravity, you know, and
Right.
you just open them and pull down the chute.
Well,
Like a
how far do you guys want to go in regards to
Right.
getting down and dirty? You know what I mean? Because if we're gonna,
It is broad
if we're-
daylight.
yeah,
Yeah.
if we're gonna enter this place, probably what we should do, I suggest we like hang out, stay in the limo, grab some cigarettes, get some drinks, hang out, watch, see who comes and goes, and then maybe if this owner shows up, maybe go talk to her, maybe not. At night, if we want to go pry open the back, you know, we should do that at night,
I agree.
right?
Yep. Maybe.
If we want to go that far, just because, you know, I don't know, Yusuf seems he's passed out in the back seat here.
Well, we might want to let this guy.
Yeah, actually, Yusufus he's doing some research down at the library.
Okay.
Probably
He's
just
trying to.
stuck in the Curious George section again, though.
We can just say that he kind of stayed back at the library, still trying to find some information on this graveyard and, you know, some other things. He's trying to find if there's more to the Clyde Whipple narrative and stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
Search of public records.
You guys can go as far as you want. I'm having a nice cup of tea.
How far are we from the building, the house, I'm sorry, the lodge?
Oh, it's probably a good 10-minute drive. It's not that far. You guys are in Cambridge right now. That's what Kyle's saying here. He says, might need trees to restrain the dark child.
I'm not sure how to take that.
I know, really.
Alex says in all caps, don't cast, control the trees.
It's not a good idea. Don't do it. So, in that case, if we don't see Mabu and the owner doesn't come around after they're done mucking about,
Mhm.
I guess we could head to the lodge, right?
Roll a luck for Casey. Also, go ahead and roll luck for Van Helsing.
Okay. I'm feeling lucky. Was I lucky?
Not too lucky. It's an 87.
Ah.
You can see your rolls in the chat menu on the right. If you click chat on the menu up there, it'll show what you're rolling.
Holy cow! I did it.
All right.
So Edgar, you're sitting in Margie's tea house, drinking your oolong tea, and kind of looking around for stairs and stuff. You said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, in the back, there's sort of this counter going, and you can see back into the kitchen area. And in the back of the kitchen, you see the stairs that go up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Coming down the stairs is a man. He gets down to the bottom of the stairs, and he has his back to you. You can't see his face. He pulls something out of his pocket, and he begins unlocking the back door. You guys out in the back alley,
Mm-hmm.
you hear somebody unlocking the back door.
I try to find a hiding place. And
Yeah, is there like a dumpster or some type of
alley?
Yeah, there's like trash cans. There's a pile of trash over here. It's just really trash and trash cans. Not much of a really good hiding place around here. What is Edgar doing? Is he just watching?
Well, is it a black gentleman? Or is he like
No.
wearing gloves and unable to?
No, you can't see his face. He's white. He's Caucasian.
Okay.
He's wearing a suit, a dark suit.
Okay, so it's not Mabu. Yeah.
when we hear the door being messed with,
Mhm.
we'll move to the far end of the alley and like
Exactly.
Well,
start talking, pull out a flask, and be like, blah 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 blah.
we're kind of too late. Only a few seconds pass, and the door begins
Okay.
opening.
I'm
Okay, well,
going
If
to...
you guys want to hide, give me a hide roll.
Oh boy.
I'm going to watch the guy until he leaves the doorway. If he pulls anything out of his jacket, then I'm gonna get up and walk out of the establishment.
Well, he pulls some keys out of his jacket pocket.
Yes. Oh
All
my
right.
gosh, you got an 8?
I hid.
I made it.
Okay. So you guys hear the door opening, kind of like creaking open. And both of you kind of like, you look at each other real quick, and it's like, trash! And, and you guys are kind of hunkering down behind these trash cans. Coming out of the back door is Barry Pollard. This guy.
Really?
Right
Wait,
here.
wait. Who?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, he's a lodge member.
This guy right here.
Oh,
He's got his googly dark glasses on.
He's real friendly with John Scott.
Yeah, he's
And,
not just a lodge member.
and he
he's
turns,
a high-ranking lodge
And
member.
he shuts the door behind him, and he kind of looks one way down the alley, looks the other way down the alley, and starts walking down the alley away from Van Helsing and Jacob.
All right, when I see him leave, I'm gonna get out of the establishment.
All right, you didn't see his face.
Yeah,
Alex.
I know.
I turn to the doctor and I say, should we knock this guy out?
Dude, I don't know enough about him. At least I know we should at least follow him. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Dude, he's gonna commandery travelers on you.
So at this point, he's like kind of he's out, near the street. He's about 60, 70 feet away from you guys, and he walks and he turns right onto the street and he goes out of your sight.
Okay, so
let's follow him.
yeah.
Okay.
So do I see him exit get onto the street?
So Edgar, you step out the front door of Margie's tea house and you look to your right. You don't see anything. You look to your left, and you see down at the corner of the street, you see who you recognize to be Barry Pollard in this dark business suit. Looks like the same guy you saw walk out of the back door of the tea house. And he stops. At this, there's like a newspaper vendor at the corner there. He stops. He buys a paper, and he continues across the street to your right. And he continues walking across the street, and then walks behind the building where you can't see him. Continuing walking down the street at the corner.
All right. When I first see him, I'm gonna call out, "Mr. Pollard," and I'm gonna grin, and I'm gonna kind of go after him.
All right, so you're running after him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not like on a full run, but.
All right, so Nikolas and Jacob are also moving out towards where he went out onto the street, right?
Yeah, we were going to follow at a distance behind,
Okay, yeah, you get out to the alley and you kind of poke your head around the corner and you see him buying the newspaper, and he continues walking down the street away from you, across the street where Margaret's tea house sits, and he's walking down the street. You see his back, and then you see Edgar come into the frame from the right, and he's jogging. And he's yelling, "Mr. Pollard! Mr. Pollard!" Pollard stops, turns, faces Edgar, and he smiles. Edgar.
I offer
He says, "Mr. Casey, what a coincidence."
Lee.
By the way, as you guys have been hanging around Margie's tea house for like an hour now. Okay.
I grin and I offer
Ed went
the
in, looked
watches.
around, and you guys have been out in the alley, and Edgar was in it. So, man, maybe not quite an hour, but you've been here for a while. He says, "Mr. Casey, what a coincidence."
I grin and I offer the lodge's handshake.
Lee, do you want to go? Do you want to go into that back of that tea house and see if we can sneak in the back door? Do you leave it unlocked?
Yeah. I should probably
Maybe.
do that. Now that
He didn't seem to lock it when he left. The lock is on the inside.
when the cat is away.
Yeah, he's going to keep him busy for a while. What do you think, Lee?
Sure, we'll walk back towards the alleyway while Edgar's engaging him.
Okay. He gives you the secret handshake, Edgar.
Mr. Pollard, I didn't know you were a fan of this fine tea establishment.
What establishment?
Uh-oh.
The tea house.
Careful.
The tea? Oh, Margie's tea house?
Yes, Margie's tea
Oh, yes.
house.
Oh yes, I love their muffins. They have such wonderful muffins. He says. This is what brings you down. What brings you down here today, Mr. Casey?
Muffins.
Why?
Muffins bring me down here.
I had just heard from a man on the bus that Margie's tea house had good muffins. So I came down to check it out, and indeed, those are darn good muffins.
He smiled.
Dude.
It was kind of very broad, affectionate smile for you, AC.
Oh,
And
Mr. Pollard,
Are we?
I met a man on the bus who might be interested in joining the lodge.
Indeed. Who might this be?
Well, I got his name, Mabu.
Mabu.
Fine gentleman. He wears a fez.
Yes. Well,
Mhm.
did you tell him to come by on Tuesday night?
I did.
Well, fine. I look forward to meeting Mr. Mabu at the meet and greet. He
Does
says, unless
seem-
there's anything else, Mr. Casey, I'm in a bit of a hurry. If you would care to walk with me, and he kind of beckons to you as he begins kind of like...
Well, of course. And
Are
I
we
go
back?
with.
Are we
hold
back
on.
to the door?
Yeah, I'll get back to you guys here in a second.
Okay. Keep talking.
All right, I'm gonna go with. Just kind of making light
Keep talking.
chit-chat.
I'll be right back, gentlemen.
Hey, actually, let's just take a break for a few minutes here, okay?
Okay,
Like
Yeah.
2-3 minute break. I'll be right back.
sounds
Good to me.
Sounds good.
Okay, what I missed?
What you gonna do? Time's caught up with you. Now you wait your turn. You know there's no return. Take your dirty roads. You join the other fools. Turn to something new. Now it's killing you. First it was the bomb. Vietnam, Nepal. Disillusioning. You push the needle in. From life you escape. Reality's like race. Colors in your mind. Satisfy inside.
I'm back as well.
I am back.
Me too.
All right.
All right.
But I have to say, definitely enjoying the Sabbath.
Agreed.
Yeah, I found some actual legitimate Sabbath on Fanburst that somebody put on there, which is what I use for all these things. And found some good ones on there. Love that Planet Caravan, man. That's one of my favorites.
It's a great song.
Yeah. Okay. Are we back, Edgar?
Yes, we are back.
Okay. All right. So Van Helsing and Crowninshield slink back into the alley. And
Man, we'll check the door.
Yeah, man.
it's open
Oh.
and unlocked.
Really.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll sneak in there, man.
Well, you hear, but apparently Mrs. Duffy is in the kitchen. You can hear the plates kind of, banging around, and you hear the creak of the oven door as it's opened and closed.
What's your sneak skill, Tom?
Hey, look here.
I have a 50.
Ooh, I don't think I have anything that good. I'm an old man.
Oh, here's a little shortcut too, Tom. Your token, you can double-click your token to open up your character sheet. It's kind of a quick way to open it up.
What can I do? I can.
Hold down, yeah,
Got it.
click the token. That'll open up your character sheet.
Okay. Edit token. Bar. Leave no bar.
What is
that.
today's?
Looks like Van
date?
Helsing's sneak is a
Okay.
whopping 10.
10. Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't think I was good. What if I go in the front and just order some tea and make a commotion to get her out there?
Okay,
There's a fly in my tea.
Yeah, we could do. Yeah, and I can try to sneak it. I can try to sneak in the back. Sure.
Yeah. All right. So I go around the front and I order some muffins and some tea.
Okay.
And I find something wrong with something and I complain about it. I'll drag it out. I'm going to make you know what I'm saying? I take several minutes of her time.
I'll try to sneak in the back, man.
Okay. Give me a sneak roll for Jacob. Mrs. Duffy is still in the kitchen.
What is today's in-game date?
Today
I drop my tea and it hits the ground. Shatters. Oh my God! Ow! I burnt my genitals. Oh! I'm gonna sue.
All right. Mrs. Duffy comes rushing out of the kitchen. Oh my goodness, what's going on? and Reginald's like, "Oh, sir, I'm so sorry." And he like, actually, you kind of slip, and you fall on the floor. You're lying on the floor. Oh my goodness. And Mrs. Duffy and Mr. Duffy are kind of hovering over you, like, "Oh my goodness." So Jacob, you're able. You don't get the skill check, but you're able to sneak. Okay. You're able to sneak. The stairs are right there upstairs. If that's
All right, man. Yes, that's my goal.
Yeah, and to your right, there's this little alcove, and there are stairs going down as well.
Oh.
I'll go up.
Okay, you go up, you get to the top of the stairs, and there is a locked door at the top of the stairs.
All right.
Get
Can
pick
I-
lock or
And you hear
bar.
Miss Duffy
Yeah.
downstairs. I'm so sorry.
And I'm wailing. Oh!
As Tom's wailing, I'll try to
He's like,
force the
I'm
door.
a doctor, you know.
I'll try to force the door a little bit, man. I'll force the door.
It's locked pretty fast. It's a pretty sturdy door as well.
Is it?
You know,
Can I?
try to-
Sure.
All right, what's your strength?
Strength is 12.
Door strength is 10. So a 12 versus a 10 is active is the top here. 12, and you remember how to do this shit. It's a 60% chance.
Come on, Lee.
Wapa.
Nice.
Jawohl.
All right, so you give it a good shoulder, and you hear the splintering of wood. You give it another one, and the door opens. Crack it. You bust it. You bust like the frame of the door, and the door opens. Inside, you see a well-furnished living area with some kind of plush sofas and some reading chairs, some nice lamps. In the back part of this looks like an apartment kind of, and in the back part you can see a kitchen area and a dining area.
Okay.
Grab the Necronomicon and get out of there, man.
You see on the table, on the coffee table in the living room,
hmm
a pile of mail.
Okay, I grab that.
There's about 3 or 4 envelopes.
Yeah, I grab all that, shove it into.
They're all addressed to a B. Pollard.
I grab all those and I put them in my my suit pocket, and I'll do a spot hit and I'll rifle through the place quickly.
All right, you're gonna tear the place apart, huh?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna rifle it.
All right. In one of the kitchen drawers, you find a .38 revolver. There's a small bedroom. In the bedroom closet, you can see a pretty fine wardrobe of suits and things like that. In one of the pockets, you find a key.
I take that.
It's like a skeleton key made of steel. Other than that, you just find some other pretty mundane letters and things like utility, bills, some correspondence with a woman with the same last name of Pollard. Name is Betsy Pollard. It looks like probably, it's just personal letters. It looks like maybe like a letter from his sister, it looks like.
Okay.
Just saying, oh, the husband's doing fine, the kids are doing great. It just seems pretty mundane. Other than that, you don't find anything in like the 5, 6, 7 minutes you spend kind of right through the place.
Okay, man. I'll leave.
Go to the basement.
And I'll try to sneak down the stairs unnoticed. I'll try to use my sneak skills again.
I'm barely trying to stand up at this point. I'm like, oh, it hurts. Oh, my hip. Oh,
my groin, my back,
groin,
my groin.
Help me up. Help me. And I'm leaning on both of them.
And I'm returning as fast as possible to the tea house at this point.
Going back to the tea house? Okay. Go ahead and give me another sneak roll for Jacob.
Oh.
29. No, that's no good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say I nailed it.
You can check it this time. Go ahead and check sneak. So Jacob, you go down the basement stairs, and the stairs are kind of creaky, So
Right.
so you kind of get to the one side near the wall where it's less creaky, and you got your back up against the wall as you're going down the stairs, sneaking down there. You get
At
down
this point,
there.
I pull out my pistol.
Okay, you do, and you chamber around, and
Yeah.
it's dark, it's dingy. You see some movement in your peripheral vision to your left.
Oh, I wheel around and point the gun right at it.
It's a rat.
All right, I don't shoot.
It goes squeak, squeak, squeak.
All right, I squeak back at it. Squeak, squeak, rat.
Says Jacob.
Yeah, is there a light down here? Is there any kind of light source I can see?
Just the dim light filtering through these kind of long rectangular windows out the back of the building that are along the alley side of the building. There's just this dim daylight coming through these painted over windows.
I'll pull out.
But it's
Go ahead.
dark, it's dirty, it's dingy. You can see part of this area looks like it's used for storage. It's a little bit more cleaned up than the rest of it. But there's a furnace down here, and it's pretty small. It's not that big. Nothing really too unusual down here. At about this, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say I'll take a look in the furnace. I'll just do a cursory look, see if I can find anything in the basement.
All right. Yeah, nothing too unusual. At about this time, Dr. Van Helsing, Edgar Casey comes walking in through the front door of Margie's tea room.
I look very nervous.
He looks kind of he looks white as a ghost.
And I immediately
As they
approach
say.
you.
And at this time, Van Helsing, you're sitting in your chair now, and they've kind of cleaned the tea off of the front of your jacket.
Okay.
And they're like, they seem pretty, they're like, "Are you okay?" And they stop the bleeding. They give you like some bandages or
All
whatever.
right. I eat my muffin. Thank you. Horrible. I sit there and wallow in my pain.
So I step
Not
up to
noticing
Dr.
anybody.
I step up to Dr. Nikolas, and I kind of lean down, looking around kind of wildly. Dr. Nikolas, where is Jacob? We need to go. They know.
It's Dr. Van Helsing, by the way. His first name is
Oh.
Nicholas.
Okay. Dr. Van Helsing, we need to go. They know that we're here. Where is Jacob?
I'm like, okay, I'll get him. Go. Run now. Keep him busy.
I nod, and I kind of like
I-
quirk my eyebrow. And
I say this
leave
quietly so like I don't know him. I'm trying to keep it on the low profile.
and I immediately
Yeah,
leave.
you do notice this woman sitting at a table over by the wall over there. She's like looking at you guys with this kind of she's sitting there by herself, and her eyes are kind of wide, and her mouth is agape.
Mm.
I
not
smile,
good.
and I wave, and then I leave.
She kind of gives you a fake smile.
Mm.
You should go over and slap her right in the face.
What do you know?
No, don't say that. Just walk up and slap her really hard and walk out.
All right, so Edgar takes a few brisk steps, and he's out the front door.
And I'm going back to the car.
All right, the car's parked down the street just a little bit. Ben's at the driver's seat.
I stand up. I pay my bill.
All right,
And I
20 cents.
I'll try to
Right,
sneak up. I'll try to sneak out the back door, Sean.
All right, it's really going to take a sneak roll this time.
oh,
Is that a fail?
That actually
49?
is. I succeed. I have a 50.
that's right.
I'm one sneaky dude.
All right, well, Mr. Duffy rolled 100 on his listen anyway, so.
Oh, perfect.
All right, so you're sneaking out the back door. You do.
I leave.
Get to the car ASAP.
It's not a car, it's a limo.
Oh, the limo, yeah. The rolls.
Yeah, so you guys all get back to the limo.
Did you take the gun, Lee?
No, I left the gun. I took the key.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's read those letters.
Yeah, we'll get back into the limo and roll back to Crowninshield Manor.
Okay.
Take out the documents that I found.
And we never found Fez.
So as soon as
No.
you all get in,
Says
and we
Dr.
start
Van Helsing.
driving. As we all start driving, Mr. Pollard, you're not going to believe this. The man that we saw on that bus, Mabu, that was Mr. Pollard.
Really?
As we were walking, he was telling me that Mr. Carl Stanford has been talking about me joining the secret ranks, and he urged me to go to the initiation. And he told me that he knew that he was Mabu, that he'd somehow become him.
Wait, how did you know this?
We were talking on the street. I was distracting him for you to
Right,
do what it
right.
was you were doing, and well, he told me this.
He said I was Mabu.
Yes, he said the man on the bus was him. He said that the man I was talking to was him.
Hmm.
Well, that's disturbing because that means he definitely saw us on the bus
yes,
too.
that's why I came in and I said that he knew.
Oh shit.
Well, so that means when he comes back to his place of residence, his hole, he'll see there's been some disruption. Logic would suggest he'll connect it with us.
Yeah, but they don't really see me with you though, right? They don't. They.
Damn you, Jacob! What did you do?
Well, no. It's not that bad. I mean, at some point we have to start breaking into the layers of this thing. You know what I mean?
We need to be more careful in the future.
Yeah,
No.
Cthulhu investigators, we're sanctioned for breaking and entering.
Exactly, and at some point, I mean, there's another option too, which is, we could simply, grab this guy.
He's a wizard.
Yes, he is a wizard.
He said that he was.
But
he
nothing.
told me that he was the rank of a child of Yog Sothoth.
Son of Yog Sothoth.
Yes, a son of Yog Sothoth, and he told me that the secret ranks teach you to gain the power of God. He changed his face, Jacob. His being.
Disturbing.
I'm trying to ascertain here. Is he going to be able to associate me with you guys?
Who knows?
Who knows? So we'll once we get back to the manor and we're trying to digest this information that Edgar is telling us, we'll start examining these letters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of like looking wild-eyed out the window. Jacob, any of these people could be any of the members of the lodge. We could be watched at any time, and we'll never know because they use different faces.
Yeah, I stay inside the limo, and I'm not seen around you guys. I think I got to keep my acquaintance with you guys secret.
And then my eyes go wide, and I turn to Jacob. Did you say that he was looking at you through the bus window?
Oh yeah, he was definitely eyeballing the car. He was basically eye-fucking us all.
Jacob, I think that they're trailing us. I think that they know.
They probably do, but here's the interesting thing. I mean, we are to some degree fellow travelers, right?
But how far can they trust us, especially if we are willing to break in and enter and follow them?
Well, I mean, they're also. That's true, but they're also cultist scum. I mean, these guys do, obviously, I mean, I don't want to speculate, but I say these guys are involved in all manner of ill activities, I mean, anybody who is going to be actually offered these upper ranks, I would imagine, you have to be a pretty dire person. So I don't know how badly this looks on us. It depends on how we spin it. In other words, yeah, we're interested in joining. We're going to investigate the people. We want, you know what I mean?
Well, Jacob, I do intend to join.
Well, I don't know if that's a good idea.
The letters that you acquired from Barry Pollard's apartment are pretty mundane stuff. Nothing really too unusual. There are some bills, utility bills. There is one short letter in one of the envelopes. It's actually unsigned, and it says Barry, be assured that things are continuing as planned in New York. And that's all the note says.
New York.
But accompanying that is another little sort of a placard card inside the envelope. And it's this. It's the Look to the Future advertisement that Yusuf found in the newspaper.
Now, is this how you guys found the place or what?
this is another like this guy does some sort of like self-help inspire kind of like talk or some sort of organization in New York where they do like these seminars.
Yeah. But what caught their eye is it says, look to the future and Carl Stanford. That's what caught their eye because it's got Carl Stanford's name on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
we found that in
it
the,
all.
I can't remember if we found that in the library or what when looking for Carl Stanford's name. Any information relating to him and John?
Actually, I'm going to add something to that. It says, Barry, be assured that things are going as planned in New York. And under that, it says, in this sort of furtive script, it says, Yog Sothoth knows the gate. Yog Sothoth is the gate. Yog Sothoth is the key and guardian of the gate. That's all it says.
Mm.
It's definitely an occult. There's something going on in New York. These people are all over the place, man. It's not good.
Yeah, well, the book Nameless Cults kind of alludes to that fact too, and it's been going on for some time, hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Yeah,
We'll take care of the problem here in Boston, and then we'll have to go to New York, apparently.
I would suggest that we keep that letter in reference in case maybe we can find out whose handwriting it is.
Is Carl Stanford in New York or is he here?
Carl Stanford is
He's here, but he travels to New York.
Okay.
He and John seem to be
Yeah,
the
this is
head
number
of the local lodge of the Silver Twilight.
Yeah,
And
they're the two basic leaders. John Scott is the what they call the noble philosopher of the Boston Lodge of the Hermetic Order, whereas Carl Stanford is just a leader. You know, I mean, you guys don't know what rank he is or whatever, but he seems to be one of the fellows who is leading this entire lodge here.
No,
But
I
but
thought
you get the impression that John Scott is actually the leader per se, because he is the noble philosopher of the lodge here at Boston.
Grand Wizard.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought Carl explicitly told me he was a...
I suppose he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said a wizard like me, he said in
Yes,
one of your
that's right.
conversations.
Mm.
Yes, indeed.
Well, Edgar's a little paranoid now.
So it's now Saturday evening. You've had quite an eventful day. You're all getting a little hungry.
So we'll head back to
No,
we'll go
not
back to
me.
the manor, and when I get back to the manor, man, I'll tell Ben to definitely make sure there's a couple more detectives guarding the house tonight.
As per usual, says Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom, Van Helsing, he's a pretty big guy.
Yep.
He's got to have his 5 meals a day.
I just had a muffin.
So we'll have Henrietta whip up a meal, man.
All right, have Henrietta whip me something up.
I'm gonna pull Ben to the side and kind of tell him a little bit about my encounter with, like reinforce the whole they can use different faces thing. Like they can appear as other people, so
You might want to like disguises,
yeah.
right? They're using disguises.
Yes.
Well, Knuckles, he says, well, that could explain a lot.
Oh? What do you mean?
Well, he says if these people can change their appearance, it's going to be awful hard to find out information or to tail these guys. I mean, Jacob sent me after he had to tail Carl Stanford for several days, and he
Disappeared.
He disappeared several times.
So now we know.
Mm.
So if they can change their appearance, it's going to be awful hard to tail these guys. Or
Yeah, I think we're coming down to the point now where, again, because of the situation with the daughter being missing, us knowing there's something going on, them apparently having some knowledge about us now.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's only been 10 days since your daughter's missing, so.
Yeah, it's about time we probably need to act.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We need to be proactive. We need to break out the heavy weaponry and do some kind of incursion.
Okay, so, well, we're getting to the end of the session here, so let's talk about that a little bit. So, I don't know, it just sounds to me like war.
Going guns blazing.
Yeah, it sounds.
Well, I mean,
like,
not right off the. I mean, I'd like to be able to do some type of entry into the lodge surreptitiously at first, at least.
Sure. Well, even you guys as masters, the highest of the public degrees, haven't really been given access to what you believe is, the full,
Right.
The full Monty here. There's. So
I just
really,
don't think we can wait for the. I just don't think we can wait for the initiation because of the missing kid issue.
Yeah.
Well, Jacob, I don't know what you have in mind, but I do fully intend to join this order, if only so that I can relay the information from the inside to you.
But what he's saying, Alex, is like time is kind of the essence here.
Yeah, we don't have the. Basically, the only way we're going to be able to gain knowledge at this point, at least in my summation, is through direct acquisition of books or whatever they have. Hopefully we won't have to burn the place down.
When is this initiation supposed to happen?
Well, it's not been specified. We probably just have to ask for it.
Yeah.
Well, Carl
Right,
and I
but-
have a good rapport. I'm sure that I can
Yeah,
get it
Pollard
done.
actually did give Edgar a hint, Alex.
Did he say?
He said talk to John.
Oh, well, yeah. But Carl and I have a good rapport. We might be able to set something like that up very quickly.
Well, he specifically said talk to John, but yeah.
John, Carl, same thing.
I have not been invited to this, these upper levels.
You
So,
have not.
if you guys wanted to go in for this initiation, tell me when it is. Start the initiation.
I guess we could do something like this. We could set the initiation, and then whoever wants to be initiated can do that, and in the meantime, the rest of the party can strike out.
Right.
Yeah.
For lack of a better plan. But if that's the
Everybody-
case, whoever's being initiated is taking a great risk.
Well,
A great risk.
Well, I dare say that any kind of infiltration, as you say, could also be a great risk.
Absolutely, but at least there you have some means to defend yourself. I guess you know what I mean.
yeah. But
When
I
you're
think that
when you're being an initiate.
Edgar already, in a way, has some form of, I think that he's already gained some basic rudimentary level of trust with these people. At least they are willing to share the fact that they can change their skins and faces at any time. And
Well, Edgar's
quite open and
advantage-
friendly.
Yeah, well, Edgar's advantage is he truly wants to know.
Right.
There's no lie in Edgar. You know what I mean? He's like, I want to know this stuff. I'm sure that's a huge. They can sense that, right?
Yeah, I mean that's
Yes.
what it seems
There's
like. I think
there's
that's why
there's no
Paul's
lie.
friendly.
Yeah, there's no lie there in him. So that
Yeah,
works.
I mean-
That works perfectly.
Yeah, just remember what Barry said to you, Alex.
Right. So I mean, again, I can. I mean,
He said we need you, Edgar. He said.
yes, he did. So I think again, it would make sense for one or two or maybe all of us, as many as possible, to join, if only so that we can gain the information of what they're doing, when, and how. I mean, even
Well,
if
and
one of us joins, that still means that I can gain that information and give it to you.
And I can
Same
point
with-
out too, as masters, you do have some access, to the lodge. I mean, you do have some sort of influence within the order.
Sure.
You're not just neophytes or initiates. You are masters. You know, so if you were to come up with some kind of plan where you wanted to, you know, sneak around and do some snooping and stuff, I mean, it could be risky, but at least it wouldn't be, you guys wouldn't be viewed as complete outsiders if you were caught.
Right.
You know,
Well, that's another reason why I think it would be important to join the secret ranks.
Is the lodge open all the time? Could we go there right now?
it is. Yes.
I just again my whole mindset is I've seen what these kind of organizations do. There's a family member missing here.
Mm-hmm.
I knew this person. You know, this is the doctor's daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm ready to get the bar and the
Mhm.
gasoline.
Yeah, well, we don't want to burn her either. You
Well,
know?
no. I'm not. Well, there's worse things than death. But okay, you know, not to get too ugly, but you guys are going to have to somehow convince me that that's not the right. Some form of that. You know, if we want to do the initiation really quick, and whoever wants to do the initiation wants to do that, I'm all for that. While some other group tries to do some type of snooping
Right.
or
Well, I think
or direct, you know, attack.
I think that having people outside of the initiation in and of itself is an advantage, because that means that there is some level of like disassociation. Well, like John Scott and Carl Stanford would look at the initiates that joined the secret orders and sort of view that as a distance, as like a barrier from the rest of the group. We wouldn't all just be those new guys who joined the secret order together, you know?
Sure. Well, I think, you know, I think we need to get used to this
Yeah.
and his input on what, you know, the plan.
So Edgar wants to become a keeper of the Silver Gate.
Yes,
He
Edgar
wants to go
wants
through
to
the
become a new one. He wants to join these ranks, if only just so that he can get the information that Jacob, Eusephus, and Van Helsing need to find the missing daughter, and to see what the heck is actually going on with this magic.
Yeah.
It's true, Edgar, but I would remind Edgar too that his main focus is to help humanity.
Yes.
And this is, and you can't get more helping humanity than saving a young woman's life.
What do the blue bars and the green bars above the faces mean?
Good
Green
question. The
bars
green
is their
bar is your
HP
points,
and
and
the-
your blue bar is your sanity.
I thought so.
And what you
Edgar.
can do, you know, while we're playing the game here, if you click on your token,
Yeah.
there's bubbles. The blue bubble is your sanity points, the green bubble is your hit points, and the red bubble is your dexterity. And you can actually click into those bubbles. Like if I say you lose 4 hit points, you can click in there and adjust your hit points, and it adjusts it on your character sheet. So
I'm a little my psychology roll looking at Edgar, I become concerned.
what do you mean?
I'm looking at his sanity.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's a little low.
Okay.
He's
All
been
this-
through a lot.
All this talk about
He's been
joining,
through the ringer.
all this talk about joining is making me nervous, but okay.
Edgar actually had, and he probably would have told you this, Edgar a few months ago had to go through electroshock therapy to cure his agoraphobia, his fear of trees.
No, I don't think I
Oh.
would have told anybody about that.
Okay. Yeah, well, the electroshock therapy in combination with some drug therapy
I
helped
see.
cure his phobia.
I'll tell
so,
you about
yeah.
that once you've had an encounter with the Dark Yacht.
Yusuf is
Excellent.
also, he's been through quite a bit. So I'll tell you what, before we wrap up the session here, let's do a couple of things.
Okay.
Number one, Edgar, I'm assuming you're going to approach Carl or John about
Oh yes,
your
as
interest.
soon as humanly possible, and I'm going
Okay,
to
basically,
urge
Carl-
I'm going to urge them to try and get me
Okay.
initiated as soon as possible.
well, say the
Feigning
next
excitement.
morning.
Or maybe not.
Let's just say like the next morning you go down to the lodge, okay, and you seek out Carl, and he's there, and he refers you to John. He says you're going to have to talk to John, Edgar, if you want to go through the ritual initiation for the Keeper of the Silver Gate. He'll be in later this morning. So you kind of wait around the lodge a little bit and you speak to John. Here's what he tells you. He says, to receive the 4th degree, Mr. Casey, To become a keeper of the Silver Gate, you must keep secret the existence of these higher degrees, you understand, or you will be expelled from the order. And he says, actually, and he gives you that steely gaze of his. He says, actually, something worse will happen. He says, the initiations are held at 3 a.m. Thursday. He says, again, you must keep secret the existence of the higher degrees, or you will be expelled, or worse. You understand?
Yes. Of course I understand.
All right, Thursday, 3 a.m.
Mr. Scott, may I ask what the significance of 3 a.m. is?
Says we require a degree of discretion, Mr. Casey.
I nod.
Says these things have been thought over to a great extent, and our charter requires that these initiations take place at such hour. He says, but of course, we will humbly welcome you to our order as a keeper of the Silver Gate. He says, I'm glad you made such a decision. He said, you should encourage your friends to as well. He says, we would like to have them as well, especially that Crowninshield. He seems like he could be beneficial to the order in many ways.
Why are they picking on you two?
Well, he just sees emptying my bank accounts. That's all he sees, man. That's
Yeah.
what he wants.
Okay,
He wants
okay.
all the money. He wants all the money that the
You like-
Crowninshields have.
He likes He likes Jacob's money, and he likes Edgar's drive, but he doesn't like Yusuf's because he's kind of dirty.
Okay.
Yeah, Yusufis is he's a little rough around the edges, but they are willing to accept him, of course. I mean, John even kind of gave him a compliment, I think, to you, Edgar, on something. He's like, yeah, I'm sure Mr. Braun, I'm sure he's a very good man, very capable, he said. So Lee, would you like to do the enchant whistle ordeal?
Actually, I'm going to opt not to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, you should be careful, man. That's getting into the bad.
Well,
spells.
it's not that. If I thought that I could utilize that somehow for this adventure,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if I can find a purpose for it, then I'll do it. But right now, throwing a point of power in there and doing it doesn't seem to be.
I respect that. That could be the right decision, but you may regret it. All I'm gonna say. Okay, I do. I respect that.
Well,
That
Well,
is
let me-
discipline, folks.
What is this whistle?
YouTube land, all you Call of Cthulhu's out there, that is discipline.
Frankly, I mean, okay, so the whistle, what it does is it increases the chance that commandery travelers will.
Augments the caster's chance to
Well,
command
you have to-
airy travelers.
well, you have to have the whistle to do the spell. Okay,
No,
but yeah,
I don't
and
think you do.
you do. Yeah, I think you have to have the whistle.
If the whistle is
Yes.
enchanted, each point of power in its enchantment adds 10 percentiles to the chance of success.
Yeah, the enchantment's the optional part, but you have to create the whistle. And I guess I could do that. I could create the whistle and just not enchant it.
Yeah, why wouldn't you do that? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. So you create the whistle, you just don't enchant it.
Not yet.
Why does the enchantment only last so long?
It's not that. No, it's that you have to put power into. In other words, you're peeling power off your character sheet and throwing it into the whistle.
And that's
Right.
10% chance.
If I could, I'd pay someone a bunch of money to learn the spell, and
Yeah.
burn their power and pay them. Pay them
How
for
much-
burning their power, but I don't think anybody would do that because
Yeah.
you're putting.
How much power does it take?
Well,
One
every
power
point
for
gives you 10% more chance for it to be successful.
And
Right.
what is
And
what is-
mechanically, the way summon spells work, if he were to cast this Commandery Traveler summoning spell, for each magic point you put into casting the spell, you have a 10% chance of it being successful. So if he put, 8 magic points into casting this, would be an 80% chance of this thing showing up, but you
Okay.
never know because it's actually a twofold kind of thing. You can summon whatever it is you're summoning, but then you may or may not be required to bind it. As
Bind
well,
it. Yeah, no, I'm
Which-
well aware of that. Okay.
which would require more magic.
Magic. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
But if you're lucky, you just summon it and it works, and you don't have to bind it.
Right. And the other way to look at it is, if you have a bunch of power points thrown into the whistle, then you have the extra points, magic points, possibly to bind it.
Yes. Right.
But
So-
you got to throw it anyways. Yeah.
So when that airy traveler flaps down out of the sky, still icy from space, you're prepared.
Right.
And Tom, lastly but not leastly, would Dr. Van Helsing, and I'm assuming that the party would be okay with this, would Dr. Van Helsing like to begin reading Nameless Cults?
Absolutely.
This
Yeah.
book that they have? It's going to require roughly, to read completely, I believe, let me look at it here, 48 weeks to study and comprehend, and 96 hours to skim. So when you skim it, you're going to take kind of a sanity hit, but you will gain some Cthulhu mythos knowledge, basically. But if you just choose to read it, you will also take a sanity hit, but you'll gain the full plus 12 percentiles to the Cthulhu mythos.
How many hours until the initiation?
Well, it's Saturday now, so, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 or 5 days until Edgar's initiation. So 48 weeks is a long time to read the book. I mean, these
No,
guys,
I know that. Do I have
Yeah,
time
these
to
guys-
skim it?
You do.
Yeah, you will.
Okay.
That does remind me, actually. Did we? I mean, we got a chance to learn a pre-human language, but you never said what pre-human language we could learn.
Okay, we'll do that at the beginning of next session. So at the beginning of next session, we'll do the skim
Okay.
for Nameless Cults for Dr. Van Helsing, and we'll do the languages that these guys have learned. And I should have you guys understand too that these pre-human or non-human languages aren't necessarily spoken languages. Some of them.
Sure.
It depends on which language it is, but mostly it's going to be the ability to read and comprehend these languages.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Gotcha.
Yep, just in case we end up on Pluto.
Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll do the Nameless Cults and do the languages at the beginning of next session.
Cool.
So we don't have to go find a rooster to sacrifice. That's good. One more rooster left on.
Saved. Unscathed.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, all right. So we'll start playing on Wednesdays from now on since Bristow's joined us.
I'm
glad-
in, man.
I'm glad you
Awesome.
have, man. This
Yeah,
is-
that's
Woo!
great. That's great, Tom.
Pumped. Very pumped.
It was great meeting you, man.
You too, dude.
And
Good
you know, of
time.
course, Tom, being a veteran of this game, I can't guarantee survival or nothing.
I am well aware.
As we know, the fun is the journey into madness and doom. That's what that
So-
is.
Yes, indeed.
So I have to ask,
Yeah.
Piercy, who's deceased, who played that guy?
Me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wondering. Okay.
Yeah. I've lost one guy so far.
That's all right.
Many
He
more to
survived
come.
about 10 sessions, so that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did a
Don't be
lot.
afraid to roll a backup character, Tom.
Not at all. Not at
Up
all.
to and including saving the world.
Awesome.
Right. And what we can do, Tom, also, if maybe on a weekend or something, if you have a little time, like an hour to spare sometime somewhere, we can do that. We can roll up a backup character. So,
Okay. Okay.
So in case something happens to Van Helsing, we have somebody to kind of jump into the game right
Got it.
away.
Might be
I'll-
maybe this weekend. This might be a good weekend. Last weekend I was crazy, but this one might work out good.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we use the Discord channel for too, is just to kind of communicate about that kind of stuff. So if you do have time this weekend, just shoot me a message in Discord and we'll try to get together.
Sounds like a plan, man. Sounds good.
All right, guys. Until
Good.
next week.
Good session.
Yeah.
Good night,
session.
gentlemen.
Yep.
All right,
Good night,
guys.
everybody.
Off is the key. I'm the gate. Good night.
Good game. Good night.
See ya.